step into the lab, lights hum like a starship dock. Pine logs stacked like data banks in a cube block. I calibrate climates while the timeline bends. Writing fungal code loops only Mycelium sends. I navigate ecosystems with instinctive precision. Every egg played a portal to a parallel vision. Mentorship spin up like reactors at dawn. You want a culture revolution, then you better respond. We fracture the boundaries of the natural order, make Reishi bloom sideways like a space-time border. I'm an Appalachian alchemist, wild ridge born, with a druid's intuition and a mind full of spores.
Keep spawning culture.
We're the network underfoot, the unseen sculpture.
Keep spawning culture.
Well, hello everybody. Boy, my hair is crazy, huh? Hold on a second. There we go. Maybe that'll help some. Anyways, welcome everybody to a wonderful Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern. It is warm outside. It is. It almost feels like planting weather. It's warm and rainy. Let's get ready to spawn culture. Heck yeah. Hickory tomato. Man, that's a good type of tomato too. One from Tulsa. Morning, afternoon, whatever it is. You said that earlier today. I get it. Huge inspiration for us starting our 4 major LFG. Thank you very much. I'm glad to have you guys here. Seems that we're getting people signing on. What's up, nerd? Glad to have you on, Micro Nerd. You guys can see my balloons. I tied a piece of paper to that one. There we go. That one. And so the cat's got a cat toy now out of it. Took me forever to find the right ballast. It turned out to be a piece of construction paper. Anyways, welcome to, I guess, an episode of the Mushroom Cast, or just a Mossy Creek Mushrooms special, but we're doing Q&As today, so bring your mushroom questions, whatever you guys want to know. If I can help, I will. And we'll be on until things get slow or I get tired, whichever comes first. So, yep, thank you, YouTube, for sending me a notification that I am online. What's up, Cliff? Welcome. Glad to have you guys on. It is, like I said, it is like 70 degrees today. Excuse me. Yeah, like right about. It's supposed to get cooler here a little bit, but it's not going to get below 60 even overnight. So, I mean, that's like, I could plant plants outside about it like that if it wasn't for the fact that I'm sure it's going to get cold again at some point. Hey, Exception, welcome. I think I saw your name somewhere on the table today, did I? Could be wrong. I don't really know. Samantha's been working on packaging up orders. She had to go pick up our daughter for track today, track practice. And so she's got bags of spawn and some orders, and they're all sitting over there for the post. So and hopefully she'll be back soon, but we'll it's pretty exciting. I'm behind on everything. I'm behind on my plants. I'm behind on my mushrooms. I'm behind getting things in long-term storage. I'm behind on my website. I'm behind on. We got Black Pearl spawn that we're ready. It's ready to ship, and I gotta get it listed on the website so people can buy it before it gets past peak. So, if you guys want Black Pearl spawn, let me know. But I've got maybe 10, 15 bags of it right now. It's ready to ship. What's up, Thomas? What's your opinion on the rotating tube style bag shakers? I think they're pretty cool. Probably one of the cleanest setups I ever saw with one of those. I can't remember who it was. I want to say that it was Fox Farm and Forage, but I don't know. But whoever it was, they would inoculate the bags, just kind of bust them up because, they come out hard as a brick a lot of times. So they would put spawn in, seal it, break it up a little, just like squeeze it kind of thing. Put it, they would squeeze it first, and then they would put it on a conveyor belt sealer, a continuous band sealer is what it's called. Um, and it rode along and sealed the whole way along the conveyor belt, and then it would drop. And when it dropped into one of those tube style bag tumblers. And then the tube style bag tumblers, it would go through and drop into a hog bin. For you guys that don't know, a hog bin, it's what we've always called them. I don't actually know what they would call or what the official name is, but it's just like a big plastic bin on casters. Like when I worked at the cake factory, all the food that was waste product or whatever would go to these hog farms. So the hog bins would be rolled out to where the railroad tracks at the behind the factory, and they'd get shipped off. So, but they had theirs set up to where the bags would fall into that and just pile up, and then somebody would go to the end of that conveyor belt, like at the end of the run or whatever, and just shelve those real quick. They probably also at times had a person there just catching bags and throwing them on the shelf, but you had one person basically, like it was smooth. They could just pour the spawn in, throw the bag on, just do it again and again and again and again, and it tumbled. And I think they work really, really well. The biggest problem is they're harder to mass produce. So if you're not building one yourself and you're not handy, that's why Ben came up with the orbital shakers, because they're something he can build, mass produce, and ship all over the place. So I use the orbital shaker because that's what I've got. But the tube tumblers, I know people that have some that have pass throughs, some that have ones that are just like cut in half and then capped, and they throw bags in and they tumble them, and then they just grab it back out and pull that. And I know Josiah at BT uses one like that. So there are different styles for sure, and I think that one works just fine. I've seen a lot of people use them. Hey, fellas. Plum, what's up? I ate a mushroom cracker. It was interesting. Okay. Interesting. Like, what's the flavor? Like, was it bad interesting or good interesting? Just absolutely disgusting, that kind of thing. You leaving? I love you, bud. Tell Lillers I love her. All right, man. Have a good evening. Are you working tomorrow? Or are you working here tomorrow? Okay, I'll see you tomorrow. Be safe. When you make soil with spent blocks, do you need to add worms or larvae to them, or will it go naturally? Do you break up the blocks? They go faster if you break them up. You don't have to break them up. They will eventually fall apart, but they will break down quicker. They break down a lot quicker with bugs. So whether it's vermicomposting, black soldier fly larvae, mealworms, whatever, they will seem to enjoy it a lot faster and break it down faster if you break it up first for them. But that takes labor, so it just kind of depends. If you just throw it in a compost pile, you don't need bugs. The stuff will absolutely break down on its own. So there's not really a lot of need for you to add any sort of bugs. In fact, if you do it outside, bugs will just come, even in the wintertime. So, but I find that it's better to just throw it. Like if you have a compost pile, just throw a handful of red wrigglers in there, and believe me, you only need a handful. They'll multiply on their own. You can always shovel some out of one side or out of one site and add them to a new site, and put a bunch in there, and they'll break down. But the compost will heat up, and the red wrigglers will stay away from the heat, whereas the black soldier fly larvae will tunnel to the heat. So summertime, it's a lot easier for me because the whole pile's kind of just churning with bugs. But the red wrigglers like the cooler spots. What do you think about the mushroom building materials? I think that they're very interesting. In particular, the fact that mycelium is so fire retardant. I've tried and succeeded, but to make pyrolyzed shiitake blocks, or to even straight up burn shiitake blocks before, just to see what they would do. We just built a big fire and we just tossed a couple in there and just observed them, and they would eventually cook. But you could crack them open and the center would still be cool, and the outside would char, but just a little bit under that char layer, the mycelium was still fairly white. Now, I'm not sure how much of it survived and lived. I should have held on to it or sampled and put to dish to see Like, how far did the heat penetrate? How far did it kill the mycelium? And once it's dried, the mycelium is still fire retardant. So I think it's kind of neat. To me, it's more of an interesting idea of insulation than structural materials, because mycelium, by the very nature, other than binding things together, it actually weakens things like lignin and things like that. So I don't know how I feel about it being a structural material. I'm sure somebody's got a method for doing that that's just fine. But for me, like as an insulation, uh, especially like I imagine the R value of sawdust is already fairly high. If you add the R like mycelium to it, then I imagine the R value goes up. The effectiveness at insulating, and then the fact that it's a fire retardant, and the fact that you can grow it on as a waste material. Like, you could literally grow, if you're willing to use mushroom blocks. You could even cut them in half. I see a lot of people cut blocks in half when they're doing shiitake, because it gives you a little bit better biological efficiency if you cut a block in half and then fruit the two halves. I don't think it's worth the extra work, but if you were to take these spit blocks, you were able to dry them and they stayed whole, at kiln dry them, and then you were able to cut them in half with a bandsaw or something like that. Then you've got, like, 2.5-inch board, basically, or foam board or whatever. So this weather is definitely getting me in my bioprospecting feels. I feel you there. I'm wanting to get out. I stepped outside for a minute just to look at the sunshine and air, because I was working in the lab, and then I realized I had 15 minutes to get on here. So I was like, oh crap. But I turned the air conditioner on today. It's February 19th, and the air conditioning is on. That's how warm it is outside for us. So, but I'm definitely into the wanting to get out bioprospecting. I want to get out on the lake. I want to do some fishing. I want to get out and play in the garden. I am at least getting to plant some plants in the lab, since I got to do that last week, and that was pretty cool. Actually, I just posted a picture today on Instagram of that. Let's see. I'm trying to. We did peppers, nasturtiums, water irises, things like that, and the peppers are going crazy. So yeah, I've gone on my Instagram. I've already got them up there, but and the unicorn bags have been the best thing for seed starting ever. I actually like the unicorn bags better for plants than I do for mushrooms, even though they're made for mushrooms. Hey, what's going on? Totally butchered that. Greetings, my friend. Full support from Serbia. I don't speak English, but I love your post. Liked and subscribed. Stay well. Thank you very much for liking and subscribing. I really appreciate that. And you stay well as well. Do you think that a 3-disc or a 5-disc House of Hydro Fogger, use code Mossy when you order from them, would be sufficient for a 2x4 tent and a 4x4 tent if I put a splitter on the outage? Also, going to get that discount code of yours. Thank you. Yep, just code Mossy. It won't be a discount code. It is not a discount code with House of Hydro. You get extra stuff. So it'll take like $1 off your order. Don't be surprised that it didn't take anything off your order. You're getting extra product there at the end. So we are working on changing that. I've got an affiliate program now that we work through that I'm using with a couple other companies. So like Rhizofunga, if you use, it should be just code Mossy with Rhizofunga for the induction sterilizers. I try to use code Mossy every time if I can. So, but GoAF Pro works really well for the affiliates. So I'm actually looking for people who want to, sell my strains or whatever, that kind of thing, and want to do an affiliation so that they can join, our affiliate program, that kind of thing. But to go back to your actual specific question, the 3-disc or 5-disc, if you can afford it, always go with the higher one. I think a 5-disc would do well for a 2x4, probably for a 4x4. I use a 12 disc for a 11 by 20 foot room. So that kind of gives you an idea of how much fog these things can put out. A 5 disc fogger would probably do you well in a 4x4. And yeah, the 2x4 would probably be overpowered. But I don't have a problem with overpowered humidification. You just got to make sure that you put your dry period a little longer if you overpower your fogger. But I prefer to overpower it because it just means it runs a lot less typically. Could mushrooms be used in place of foam and insulation for homes? Oh, that's what I'm thinking. And I think that it's going to work really, really well. I haven't tested the R value. I haven't really played too much with it. I just know that it is incredibly hard to burn shiitake blocks, even dry ones. Turn them into charcoal. It kind of stinks at first because mycelium kind of smells like burnt hair. It's chitin, the same thing hair is made out of. So it'll smell like burnt hair. I tried to grow oyster mycelium across beans and then slice that up, sterilized beans, and then slice that up and then fry it like you would tempeh, because Sidney Obersingleton made a morel tempeh, and he really liked the way it turned out. I tried it with oysters, and then I tried to cook it, and it smelled and tasted like burnt hair. I will never do it with oysters again, probably, because it was awful. Morel obviously must have some sort of different properties when it burns. But yeah, you just got to be careful. So the good news is that your house probably wouldn't burn down. The bad news is your house might smell like burnt hair with the foam and with the the foam insulation. But yeah, I think it could totally be done for that. Steve, I just use a Vicks humidifier for a 10x4 tent area. I used to use 2, but 1 works fine. So there you go. Steve Curry says that he uses a Vicks. If he uses a Vicks, then a House of Hydro one, a small 3 one will probably do you fine. In a though it depends on what his airflow is as well. But I would go. But the Vicks ones I like until they catch on fire. I've heard of more than one person them catching on fire after continuous use. They're not really made, so just be careful, Steve, because I've had 2 catch on fire, and I know other people that have had them catch on fire when they use them continuously. So just be careful with that. The valves get stuck or something. They're just really made for occasional use when you're sick or something. I see buds growing on the trees, so spring is really. We have daffodils. I think my mom said that we have these really crazy. So we have family land around here. My family's been here for like 217 something. But we went to some family land where there's an abandoned house and nobody lives there. And we dug up a bunch of flowers. And we asked permission and everything else. But the idea is that these daffodils that we have are these like crazy daffodils that I've never seen before. So we're kind of spreading them around, growing out as much as we can. I'm about to get mine from the old house and bring them over here and plant them in these planters now that we've got daffodils actually growing. But they're blooming. They're not supposed to be blooming yet. It's usually like April. April is when they're blooming. So things are really kind of crazy right now. It's very, very warm. And last time it did this, I think we had like a blizzard in May. The last time it was like this that I remember. It's just like this extreme. I'm going to be making a series of raised beds with my spent blocks. I'm going to dump them into a wood chipper to bust them up and then fill the beds. How soon can I transplant the beds? You want to be doing it now. If you want them to rot down enough by the spring, it'll rot slower through the wintertime. And of course, I don't know your temperature outside. I don't know exactly where you live. So the idea here would be that you'd put them wherever you want. You'd smash them up as quick as you can. Wood chipper's probably not going to work well for you. Go ahead and try it if you want. But I had a buddy that started a tree care business, had a trailer-sized wood chipper that we fed blocks through, and the blocks gummed it up to the point that he had to go have it maintenanced. The blocks will tear up even small wood chippers. So just be aware that you might need to do a little maintenance to it because it'll get gummed up and it may stop. It is best, honestly, in my opinion, just to throw them in a pile and put on some good muck boots and just stomp on them. They'll break apart underfoot. With that, they break down pretty quick, but it is better to have them rot all winter. The longer you can let them rot, the closer you can let them get to soil, the better. Now, that said, when your springtime comes, if they're not rotted down enough, what you can do is when you do your transplants or your seeds, you can dig a little bit, like dig a hole, fill that full of soil, and then plant your plant in that. And then the rest of the stuff can continue to rot around it. And all you're doing is having to put soil in those spots. Or you can mix it, charcoal, mix it with charcoal and soil and whatnot. If you throw worms on it through the winter time, you have through the wintertime, you can add red regulars to it, and they will tear that stuff apart pretty quick. A lot of times what you'll see, though, is that your pile or your beds will rot underneath long before they rot the top layer. The top layer will actually just continue looking like sawdust or cement blocks a lot of times. And then you dig down even a tiny bit, and it'll be black underneath, a dark brown, and then it starts to turn black. Especially if I add a lot of charcoal to my soil here that we're creating in the parking lot. So we get really, really black dirt, but it'll turn black even without the charcoal. It just takes longer. Let's see. Your beds, you can sometimes add some wine cap to rot it down. Adding water. We have a gray water system, so when we take showers, we use natural soaps, shampoos, and things like that. We recapture that water, and it goes to our beds, our trough beds, where we're throwing fresh blocks into it constantly. And so that water every day is just getting flushed through that system, and it's warm water. It's got all your old skin cells and bacteria and all that kind of stuff on it, plus whatever nutrition the soap and shampoo adds. Again, you want to use natural stuff. So I use a pine tar soap because it breaks down naturally. We use a organic-based shampoo, that kind of thing. So there are ways to speed it up. Aeration. So if you've got like a garden fork, you can go up there, and as the bed gets compacted from rain or whatever, you can lift it up a little bit and aerate it. You can mix it up. There's a bunch of different stuff. So hope what? Jacob Culver. Hope what? Hey, look, there's a Star Trek ship. Sugar Booger. 77 degrees coming, Georgia. Yeah, it's 70 degrees here in Jeff City, Tennessee. It's just warm. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I'm aware that's just a bunch of freebies, which is cool. Okay, I just want to make sure, because sometimes I get people who are like, I used the code and it only took $1 off. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I've said. Is that code Mossy will get you some extra stuff. Jacob Culver, what's up, Andrew? Hope all is well. It is. Thank you for asking. Micro Ag is pushing production, and South Texas is loving the Mossy Creek genetics. Absolutely. Glad to hear it, man. Pieces all falling into place. Excellent. Thanks for all the help along the way. You're very welcome, man. I'm sad that it took you a little while to get started, but I'm glad that you're getting there. I know it's hard when you're chomping at the bit. Man, I wish you all the best down there in Texas. Too hot. Too hot. Oh, also that fig, by the way, you saw it, I think, when you were here, is gigantic. So someone was telling me I could probably go ahead and take cuttings off of it. I don't know anything about figs. So I'm hoping that fig will do well in the 150-gallon tote. I mean, using just one 5-disc fogger and split the ducting and run it to both tents. Oh, so the biggest problem I foresee would be making sure that it's evenly split, because there's pressure differentials and things. But a 5-disc fogger would be able to humidify both rooms, yes. Now, will it humidify both rooms? You might have to toy with it as you split it. Air pressure and whatnot, closing up the exit vent on one tent a little more than the other, or I don't. There's ways that you're probably gonna have to play with it, is all I'm saying, because you might get more humidity. There are ways to help avoid that. like you're going to have some air mixing, like a Venturi effect is one way I'm thinking of it. But I'm not entirely sure how I would design that immediately and without knowing your setup. But yeah, it has powerful enough. You'll just have to play around with it. Sugar Booger, hey neighbor, I'm not too far from you. So Steven Sugar Booger, neighbor, how do you? Oh, Cumming, Georgia, right? Dumb Andrew. Yeah, this weather is weird. Last time we got warm early, my beehives woke up to get moving, and then temps dropped me. Oh no! Do you still have beehives? Do you have a way to protect them from that? I remember when my beehives died. I hadn't been messing with them a lot because I went from not being allergic at all or even bothered. Like bee stings didn't even hurt me. And I got zero, even not even a bump. And then I started keeping bees and I got stung a couple of times. And then the next thing you know, one time I get stung and I barely get back into the house in time and become incredibly allergic to it. No allergy before that. Just bam. Not allergic, allergic. Can you post the link to the YouTube live? I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I can't find it when I get on YouTube. Yeah. Give me a second. I'm going to have to go to YouTube and pull it up. Okay. Well, it's going to make me search for it, I guess. There we go. All right. Crystal. There you go, darling. See if that works for you. I'll post it in the chat. I like driving on my pile with my tractor. Yeah, there you go. Just smash it up. That's what you want to do. Just smash them up, and they'll break down real quick. Makes it easy. Running over it with something is super easy. Comparatively. You can also just, like we used to just, us and the employees go out there and just walk on it. How many times can you expand grain to grain? So there is no cap on how many times you can expand grain to grain. It's got so many factors. So let's just say a safe amount is 3 to 5 times. But you have to, like, if you like, you could go out 10 times if you have clean enough. Like if you got good sterile practice and a good sterile product. When you're first starting off, I suggest like buying spawn in and expanding it once and then not doing it again until you get comfortable with that. And then you try some bags where you keep back and you expand those out further. But there is no hard cap. It also depends on where your culture is when it starts off. Some cultures are more vigorous than others, and some lose vigor faster than others. It kind of depends on what you're growing, So like cordyceps is piss poor from grain to grain to begin with. But then oysters, you can go grain to grain to grain to grain to grain forever. For the most part, as long as it's a healthy culture and it's fairly young, and it is clean, and the blocks you're putting it in are clean. So, because a lot of times what gets you is not the culture wearing out; it is the accumulation of, like, you might have a little bit of bacteria in your blocks to begin with, and it doesn't bother anything. But then when you expand that bacteria gets expanded as well. And as you go, you build an accumulation of contaminants, and as you build that accumulation, eventually there's a tipping point where your mycelium loses. So it's not really about like how long you can go, that kind of thing. Crystal says, another Texan right here, North Texas, Dallas. Man, a lot of Texans. A lot of you Southerners. Texas, Georgia, Texas. Speaking of, Crystal, did you get the link to the YouTube to work? Pans in a Martha tent inside the 2x2, but inside the 2x2 tent, and gourmet in the 4x4. It says that what they call pan cyans or whatever. I'm not actually really all that familiar with pans. Paniolus, is it? Paniolus? No, Paniolus. I can't remember. But There's our chats. Walla Walla, Washington. Walla. It's an interesting word. I mean, don't get me wrong. We get, there's a place down here called Ottawa. So I totally get different names. Just kind of cracks me up a little bit. Pancyan and Panbisporus. Okay, yeah, I don't really know anything about that. That sounds like a Dr. Ed Graham thing, isn't it? Yeah, the speaking of, I wonder what he's up to. He was on a couple streams ago talking. Yeah, I've never grown anything like that. I did just get a bunch of people asking me, and I'm like, guys, come on, you know better than this to ask me. Emma. Emma. Greetings from Greece. Well, greetings back to you from East Tennessee. Glad to have you on the chat. Yeah, we're just doing Q&A today. I have no topics. Last week I did some planting with the plants into sterilized compost. I also had a sterilized compost and charcoal mix, and that is done incredibly well. So that is probably my new go-to from now on, is the compost charcoal mixture, a half and half, hydrated, and then put in unicorn bags and sterilized. And that my peppers are like going like crazy, and my nasturtiums that I planted that way, those are just easy for me to plant. So I like to test them because they're so easy to grow. But yeah, all of those have done well. And I've done jars as well. In fact, you can see some of them over there. Those are old. And so far, I'll say I'm liking the bags a lot more than the jars. They do a lot better. Steve says, I think Ed moved to a new... Teddy, she's coming. Hush. Samantha just pulled up, and he is at the door begging, crying to be let out with her. I think Ed moved to a new town, is teaching. Yes, I did hear that. I did hear that he's teaching at university again. So that's pretty cool. I wonder if he likes that or not. I know it's hard on YouTube. Like, people don't realize how hard it can be sometimes. Because, I mean, it's hard to be on all the time. And I mean, at this point, Samantha and I talked about it, and I've decided that if I come on here and I'm sad, I'm just going to tell you guys I'm sad. I don't feel up to it today. And we'll talk through it, and we'll work our way through it. But, thankfully, most days I feel really good. I know that on Thursdays I need to treat myself particularly well, make sure I eat well, do everything that I need to do to feel well so that I can get on here and authentically be happy, kind of thing. But I hope that Ed is happy where he's at. I miss seeing him online, though. But he's university's got to be a fairly decent position. There's my lady. Sometimes she can look so grumpy. She's probably tired of running everybody around today. We run a water agar from time to time in our cultures to keep them clean. We especially use this method on new cultures. There's a lot of people that do that. I know Sporadic does that. What's up, baby? Welcome back. Yeah. You look so excited. That's what I told him. I said, you pulled up, and I was like, she looks kind of grumpy right now. And I was like, she's probably tired of running everybody around constantly. Why can't we teleport? So much time driving. This is what I'm saying. The self-driving cars. That'll be the best thing in the world. You'll be able to work on your book while you're driving somewhere because you're not driving. But yeah, water agar. I know Sporadic does that. A lot of people will use water agar to make sure that things are clean before they put them to stuff. I use a culture cleanup mix a lot of times. It's a charcoal-based recipe that we use. We also sell it, but water agar also will work. But I like the culture cleanup because it does have nutrition in it. It's just hard for bacteria and mold to eat. Do what? We ran out of charcoal. Oh, I got to make more then. I have charcoal out there. I need to grind some up. But I've got some in the kiln. They zapped all of his channels on it, but there are possibly a new one or two. Yeah, I remember when they zapped him, and they didn't just go after it. They went after his personal channels and every single channel he had. So that is the danger. I get hit all the time. Like moon pearls, I cannot. Moon pearls is one of my favorite things. Jake Howard did the initial mutation. I did the selective breeding to tighten it up and make sure that it was no longer producing gill tissue or anything like that. And the um, Facebook and Instagram have both, like, I almost nuked my account by posting moon pearls. And it kept saying it was drug related material. And I'm like, no, these are oyster mushrooms. It's an oyster mushroom mutation. I say so in this. And there's a lot of people who are like, you can just say it's Enigma, that kind of thing. And it's like, it's not Enigma. It doesn't look anything like Enigma. It looks completely different. But this is just the way it goes sometimes. So, you know, so I can't even advertise the best culture I have is the moon pearls. I can't advertise it at all, just because it. In fact, you know what? I'm going to pull it up. Let me find it. No, it's not going to delete it that way. Is this it? It's one of these photos. There you go. So that's like moon pearls when it's pinning, right? And I guess there, we'll say it does kind of look a little like what, I was talking about there. But this one maybe? So there's well, there's no way for me to really make that bigger. So that's kind of what it looks like in a box. And then yeah, right. I don't know why. There we go. So that's a really nice photo of it. As it's pretty much ready to pick right about there, very close. And that's just an oyster mushroom mutation, and it looks really, really good. But they keep saying it's drug content, and me posting that one time almost completely nuked my Facebook and my Instagram. And Instagram came back and was like, "Okay, you're right, we got it. Okay, it's not drug content." And then Facebook turned around and said, "No, and not only that, but you appealed this, and now we did a manual review, and it's still drug content." And I'm like, "How? Let me speak to this person. What qualifications does this person have?" I bet none. So it was upsetting, and for them like to do that to him, he was actually working with those, but he's in a different country, right? He's in a completely different country. So of course I don't actually know what the legality of those in that country was. I thought it was legal because a lot of people import they import spore prints from Thailand and stuff a lot. So a lot of spore prints are made. So I'm not entirely sure how that worked out either. But you need to rename it something less spacey, especially with the bluing. Call it the ice oyster. Yeah, I mean, I thought Moon Pearl's oyster was fine since I've got a Yeti's breath oyster, and that never got me in trouble. Or, I don't know. A photo, what? Of facts about it. That's what I wonder. Was it the graphic that got me in trouble? Was it? I will say, like, here's the thing: you get into the mushroom supply business, you might be surprised at how many of your competitors will report stuff that is not bad at all, and they'll report it and report it and report it and report it just in the hopes of getting it pulled. There's a lot of that. I don't know. It's weird. I used to work in aquaculture. The aquaculture industry was not this backstabby. Mushrooms kind of has been, and that's weird to me that mushrooms are, considering there's the mushroom medicine, which is supposed to make you more open. Got your old road oyster mushroom LC, waiting for the hood to inoculate AIO bags already pre-made. AIO. I do not remember what AIO would stand for, but excellent. Old road's a good one. Block shade one. That's probably not what they ordered under. Samantha's like, who ordered that? What's up, Taddert? So that's a constant runabout she has. Usernames versus the name they used in the email versus their actual names versus. Yeah, I was calling one guy Maxwell over and over again because it was Maxwell's mushrooms. And he got so mad at me for calling him Maxwell, even though the email said Maxwell on it, except he signed off at the end, whatever his real name was. And Maxwell was his cat. And I didn't know that. And he got super upset with me for calling him Maxwell. I don't know everyone by heart, and I don't necessarily read the email. And then he accused me of being an AI, that he didn't like getting AI messages, which I think is funny because the AI would have picked up his name faster than I would have, right? So I was like, well, I'm sorry. What makes you think this is AI? Is it too professional sounding, or is it the fact that I messed up your name? I don't understand. All in one. That's the AIO, all in one. My bad. I don't always pick up my the framework language of mushroom. Stemless, sporeless oyster mushroom. Ooh, we'll just call it what it is. No more moon pearls. No romance whatsoever. Andrew's going to be Mr. Digit, alphanumeric digit, you know. No, I won't put mutated in there because then they're going to. Tasty oyster. Best chef oyster. The no waste oyster. The no waste oyster. I like that. See. Oh man. Where did I go with all this? Why did I get on Maxwell? Or the red, white, and pearl of America oyster. Red, white. There we go. I mean, you know, I like it. It's just, yeah, I don't know. It made me mad because it's like this is the best thing that I have had the chance to work on to release. This is potentially game changing because you have a sporeless oyster that produces well, that's all flesh and no waste, and it goes in your grow room, and you can go in there without wearing a mask because there's no freaking spores. It's going to make everything healthier and better for everyone, and you can sell it for a premium because it's. And then they won't let me advertise it. It pisses me off. Anyways, all in one. I understand the AI thing. It's gotten harder to distinguish real from AI. You understand that he got mad about the AI thing, or that he just couldn't figure it out. I mean, I at that point, does it matter? As long as you're actually getting real communication, I wouldn't be mad. But I do get being confused. But I don't know. I don't have AI hate or particular love the way a lot of people do. I think it's a useful tool. And we'll see if all the doom and gloomers are right or all the optimists or utopians are right. It is really useful for people with dyslexia, that's for sure. Especially the ones where you can chat with them. I was talking to one, and it had a female voice while I was in the shower, and Samantha came in and was like, who are you talking to? I'm like, the AI. She's like, oh, I was wondering who you were talking to in the shower. The all-in-one bag I made is Master's Mix Groats with cocoa core, gypsum, and dead active yeast. So, well, that Groats are whole oats, right? And so it would be Master's. You have Master's Mix with whole oats and cocoa core and gypsum and dead. What is dead active yeast? Hey, Andrew. Tell Samantha thank you. Yeah, Hericium Horde out, by the way. I just harvested a bunch of moon pearls. Just call it all meat oyster. That's not a bad idea. And I will tell her as soon as she comes in here. I'll tell her that you said so. Yeah, she got a bunch of the Hericium horde stuff out. Finally, I'm behind on everything, and Samantha's the only reason anything gets done in this place. All meat oyster AMO. That's not a bad ring to it. All meat. I like it a lot. Just call it Sam, the silly artist mushroom. Sorry, I'm just being ridiculous, obviously. With the red, white, and pearl. No, don't be sorry. We're having fun here. I don't know what you're sorry about. Sell your moon pearls to Elon, sporeless, so it won't clog the air scrubber. That, see, yes, that someone gets it. that's our Mars or moon base oyster or whatever he's doing nowadays. I mean, that's the thing, right? It's I've got to test it on a bunch of substrates, but it seems to be just as aggressive as normal. I did make 5 liters of moon pearl today, so we got more moon pearls coming out, and then we got a lot of spawn to get out. So Samantha made me make a big aerated thing of it. Last time I did moon pearls aerated, it came out beautiful. It smelled so good when I had it emptied. Cooked dry active yeast, cheaper than peptone. Okay, I gotcha. So like nutritional yeast, basically nutritional yeast. Gotcha. I just I hadn't heard it called dead active yeast or anything like that. So I didn't know if I was missing something that you were laying down. If I wasn't picking up what you're laying down. Mushrooms will probably be one of the first cultivated foods on Mars. I agree. If you want sustainability, you got to have plants because plants are the primary producers. So you could use mushrooms could probably be one of the quickest things to get started. But you're going to need 10, 20 times the amount of plants as anything fungal. The good news is the mushrooms could eat quite the varied diet. So oyster mushrooms will even eat meat and insects, and they'll eat steak or eggs or, even things like that. So you can get it. As long as everything's sterile, it will grow on that. I'm not saying it's the best thing for it. You do need to formulate things in its favor. But, yeah, I think it'll totally be one of the first things grown. You could land and be growing some sort of fresh produce between microgreens and mushrooms. Within a couple of weeks, you could have something from the microgreens. Within about 6 weeks, you could have something from the mushrooms. And that way you're getting a little bit of fresh, food in your diet. And then you have your staples like rice and things, all that kind of stuff. But then after that, it's aquatics. Aquatics are the way to go because the soil on Mars is toxic with perchlorates, I think they're called. And you can remove those, but the easiest thing to do would be to dig out a pond, basically, put a liner down, and now you have a massive amount of grow space, whether that's aquatic plants. There's like over 300 different edible aquatic plants that have very few have actually been selectively bred or worked for human consumption, and many of them are very good. Sweet flag and duck potatoes and water chestnuts, water cress, water spinach, water celery, et cetera, et cetera. And then you have all the fish, snails, mystery people. You can eat mystery snails. I don't know if people know that a lot of times. They're actually eaten in Thailand and places like that. There's a great video on YouTube where they did it and cooked them up right there on the boat and made like a sweet Thai chili sauce with it. But anyways, you've got all of that stuff. Aquatics are hugely productive and probably the first thing that you do on Mars, I think. But mushrooms would be an essential part of that. The problem is you won't have like 1,000-pound grow rooms on Mars probably so much because the raw amount of biomass required for us to produce that would be insane. But you could have small, consistent amounts of mushrooms coming through, and you're cycling your waste with that. So I think it's a good way to go. But are mushrooms a complete protein? No, not really. So they have there's a little bit of protein in mushrooms, but it's not a lot. Mushrooms are not calorically heavy, and to be calorie heavy, you have to have one of 3 things. You have to have what is it? Carbohydrates, sugars, or no, sugars are a carbohydrate. It's protein, fat, or carbohydrates. Which is interesting because you can't live without protein, you can't live without fats, but you could totally live without carbohydrates. But yet carbohydrates are such a big part of our diet. So, but mushrooms are very much a amino acid heavy thing. So it has some of the building blocks. It would not be a food source for calories, which you would want. What the beginning, like if you're talking about like what I was talking about for microgreens and mushrooms, would just be so you have something fresh in your diet. Um, to give you the mouthfeel and all that kind of stuff. Mushrooms can help add flavor. Um, Mushrooms can be used to make all kinds of things like mushroom catsup, which is a really good, that's actually a sauce. Most of us are familiar with ketchup, which is a tomato catsup. But old catsup used to be made with fish or mushrooms. It was an amino sauce. But you have all kinds of stuff. Those would just be what you would the first things you would start with for flavor and vitamins and minerals. Those are really, really good vitamin and minerals. And what's nice about the microgreens and mushrooms is you can grow microgreens, mow them down, roll up the root mat, grow mushrooms off the root mats. And now you've started your cycle up, which is your soil building cycle that you use in the aquatics side of things. And then eventually you can start working your way into terrestrial plants. And that's how you jumpstart a food economy somewhere where you don't have. That's what I'm doing in the parking lot, right? We've jump started the food economy using the mushrooms, and we have the added bonus of something that's as vitamin and mineral heavy is almost as organ meat, right? Mushrooms are way more vitamin and mineral heavy than most plants. But they're accumulators of it, so they get it from the plants. They just concentrate it. But no, they're not a good calorie or protein supplement. Nutritional yeast is too expensive. Dry active yeast is cheaper by economic. Okay, gotcha. I'd be very interested in the differences between those two, both price and if there is a nutritional difference or if it's basically the same. I would say it's pretty close to the same. They could grow mushrooms on their own waste. So there was a project with that we worked on with what was the name of that Magnate Academy? That's it. Is Pellissippi State Magnate Academy, and so anyways, they talked to us. We were the subject matter experts that they used for this group that sent stuff to the ISS, and it was a poo challenge, right? Which is really gross. They had to simulate like all the leftover food and poo and all that kind of stuff, and they grew it, a blue oyster in a tube. They got the blue oyster. Unfortunately, they'd already set everything up before they were told about us, and so they didn't get the genetics from us. So we didn't get to send that to space that time. We did get to send some later. It's because we didn't have the phyto stuff back then. But yeah, I mean, so your waste sterilized. I mean, I don't imagine you'd want to compost it first or work through some of it. But Paul Stamets suggests that growing mycelium with biodiversity makes it stronger. But how do you ID the correct mycelium after that? Well, I guess the biodiversity part would be probably bacteria rather than other mycelium. Because I've noticed this. Samantha and I have both talked about this at length, especially during our mentorships and stuff that we've done. But you'll get a strain, and you can actually add bacteria to it if it's kind of weak, and then grow it out and clean it up afterwards. And a lot of times it'll come back stronger. We'll have bags that have mold in them, and grow bags. And if you leave that alone, oh, that's the Magnate Academy she just found. Career Magnate Academy, International Space Station, Poo Challenge, NASA 2020 or 2018. That's super cool. Oh, you saved his card, his letter. I wonder if he's still alive. Mr. Reed, we sincerely appreciate your company's interest in and support of advancing the science research program at CMA. Your generous donation of time and materials has certainly heightened my students' interest in mycology. Your golden blue oyster mushrooms were a topic of conversation and admiration at our open house on January 24th. Thank you for all that you have done. I look forward to the many opportunities we will have to inspire and advocate educate CMA students. Warm regards, Leanne Hahn, principal of the Career Magnet Academy. That's pretty. Career Magnet Academy, but in tandem with Pellissippi. And then Robert Gant, Dr. Robert Gant. Boy, that was an interesting old man. Oh, and they Samantha's got a copy of their proposal that they did. He and his wife were both scientists. That's super cool. I'm glad you save that stuff, Samantha. I don't save shit, and Samantha's always saving stuff, and I'm always like, "Why are you saving that?" You know. And later on, I love it. But yeah, I mean, it makes sense that giving them a little bit of competition will make them stronger. I feel like. There we go. Sorry. Not just perchlorates, but heavy metals as well. Now, that's an interesting idea. Now, I don't know the nature of perchlorates. Can you take Martian soil and mix it into sawdust and stuff, grow mushrooms on it, remove the mushrooms, incinerate them? I know you can do that for the heavy metals. But will mushrooms take out perchlorates? You know what? That's a good question. Hello, Gemini. I have a question for you, Great Oracle. Are you gonna go pick her up? Love you. Okay. Can mushrooms break down perchlor? Oh my gosh, it would help if I spelled it chlorates. Let's see what it says. I'm interested. While research into fungi is still catching up to the extensive studies on bacteria, current evidence suggests that mushrooms, and specifically their mycelial networks, can play a significant role in breaking down perchlorates, often through synergistic relationships with bacteria. A perchlorate is a persistent environmental pollutant often associated with rocket fuel, munitions, and even Martian soil. Unlike many organic pollutants that fungi eat directly, perchlorate is typically broken down via reduction into harmless chloride and oxygen. Very freaking cool. Guys, we found it. Mars is ours. So if that's the case, you can literally... You're fine, take it. You can literally break down... Just unplug it. Thank you. Be careful. So you mix the soil in, you grow your mushrooms. The mushrooms you have to incinerate to get rid of the heavy metals and the perchlorates. And then you break that down into compost. Now you grow your plants. You can grow the mushrooms off plants. Bam, bam, bam. You've now got a soil cycle going. You're pulling carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere, turning that into carbon plant matter, which turns into carbon mushroom matter, which turns into bugs and fish and etc. And now you've got your cycle going. Kaboom. That helps. Alchemy Gardens. I'm going to try using my spent fruiting block substrate to grow microgreens. That is, it works. It does work. You want to really compost it down for the best results. Okay, so I know a farm that does this. They grow microgreens off the mushroom compost. They grow mushrooms off the microgreen root, like roll-ups. They just roll them up, stuff them in a bag, throw some. They cook it, and then they throw some liquid culture into it. It grows beautifully because a lot of times they were using coca coir for their seed germination, and then you can actually do the cycle back and forth, and it works really, really well. You can also just go one direction and get two crops, and so on. But I found that going the quickest way was from microgreens, then to mushrooms, then you had your compost to grow other plants, and that was a really good trajectory because you got export. You had 2 imports, an export. Then you use that to grow an export. When I'm talking about export, I mean like household economy, farm economy. I don't mean like export to another nation kind of thing. You could put it all to substrate and clone what comes up. Yeah, you could. You definitely can. That's the way people do stuff. And the biggest thing though is if you're growing a mushroom, you want to make sure that you get to the interior tissue if there's mold and bacteria and stuff, and you don't want bugs in there because the beetle larva will larvae of all kinds of insects will tunnel through mushrooms. Also, compost from a market garden, keep everything in house. I mean, yeah, it helps to keep a lot. I don't know if you've seen my videos last summer with all my plants outside, but that is all grown with spit mushroom substrate as the base. So that huge amount of biomass that we have. In fact, I got a big IBC tote just full. It's not all mushroom material because a lot of it's from the aquatics as well. There's like algae, what they call coon's tail and fox's tail, which is like similar to kind of, it's not quite like guppy grass, but it basically is what you use to keep baby fish alive from being predated upon. Duckweeds, parrot feather, all kinds of plants that produce a lot of biomass. That would be bulrushes. A lot of that stuff gets added to our compost as well. So we do have a nitrogen cycle going from that and getting added to it. But yeah, you can the mushroom spent blocks will turn into a ton of biological matter for your new artificial soils, and that's what I am obsessed with. You know, I'm in a way, I'm really obsessed with this, like using mushrooms to help us and other techniques to build these artificial soils that mimic the healthiest natural soils. But it's kind of like what they talk about. I need to do more research into it, but the Terra Preta, the Amazonian black earth, which is it's considered a man-made technological marvel, I guess. It's such biologically active soil, and it's considered man-made. And I think that that's one of the great things about humankind is that we can recognize natural processes and then put them together in a streamlined fashion to get healthy outcomes. So for the soil and everything. Well, actually, Elon has scrapped the Mars mission recently and has decided to colonize the moon. So your name for your oyster is actually spot on. Moon pearls, yeah, I hadn't thought of that. Has he fully scrapped it? I thought they just kind of were like, well, we're going to keep that back because the moon base was always, as far as I know, as far as I've known about it, the moon base was always going to be a small stepping stone. Now they're talking about making it the big thing because they're able to put the mass driver on it. I did see we were talking about that and some really interesting things that they're wanting to achieve. Yeah, I don't know. It'll be weird. But in that case, you're right. Moon pearls would be active, would be accurate. Perchlorates are oxidizers and a major component of solid rocket boosters. So I did not know that. I didn't know that until we read that on Gemini, that they're a component of rocket fuel, or at least off output of rocket fuel. I think Steve said something in one comment above the one you're on now. Oh, wait, you're Steve. Crap, when did you say this? What was I? Did I miss? You're the only Steve I see right now. Unless I'm just really blind. Somebody, if I missed your comment, let me know. Easier to, yeah, absolutely it is. I think that'll be a big component of it. I'm going to leave the rocketry to them. I just want to bring life to dead worlds. I think that would be a super cool mission in life. I am probably too old to do much of it, but it would be super cool to play a part in it one day. We'll see if that works. I deleted that comment on my end because you skipped my first comment. Did I? I'm sorry. Well, so you were saying that I missed a comment from you. Yeah, Northern Lights. So going back to that, yeah, they're talking about putting a mouse driver on there. So my understanding now is that they're talking about doing orbital data centers, right? So that they can collect power from the sun. It's not going to be driving up, power prices. They already know how to do a lot of this stuff with Starlink. Um, it'll use the coldness of space. You don't have to worry as much about befouling water and heating water up. So a lot of the problems that people have with the AI data centers, they're hoping to fix, I think, with putting them up in space. But then the next step comes apparently the moon mission, which they start setting up ways of living on the moon, building in the mass driver and whatnot. And then the mass driver allows them to build AI probes and start shooting them off highly efficiently at other star systems and whatnot. Probably also around our solar system. I mean, how cool would that be to have a AI powered probe that goes and monitors Jupiter for you and sends back a ton of data and all this kind of stuff. So I think it'd be pretty cool. But the life systems are what interest me. I totally, not just in terraforming and things like that, but just I don't know if any of you guys have read Werner Vinge, but he in a Deepness in the Sky talks a lot about the Chang Ho, which are they're space traders. They move from one planet to another kind of thing, trading, but they value life. They have these bonsai masters, and even a small ship will have a park, and that park might just be an alcove with a bonsai in it. But then they have these bonsai parks, which are, at certain habitats, large ships, that kind of stuff, where you can actually go in, and they have full-grown trees and crickets, and because they're trading from one world to another, they're collecting life, and they're able to build all these artificial ecosystems, and they've got all this DNA and stuff stored for long-term usage. So they have these bonsai masters that are able to pull. I think it doesn't ruin anything. But real quick spoiler, but in one park that you see, they have basically butterfly winged kittens, right? And that's a bit ridiculous, but it's super cool. I like that idea. I like this idea of not just crafting illusion and life together to create a space for a natural space, right? You're using the illusion to actually bring out more of the naturalness. So much of the way these bonsai masters are able to take a small shrub or tree and then trim it in such a way that it's more natural than natural, right? In essence, it's got this more natural than naturalness to it, because they've trimmed everything and treated it just the right way. And the rocks are the root of the garden, and the way they create these windswept hillsides out of the tree. It's super cool stuff, and I think that it would be so fun to be able to do that in space. So, oh yeah, I did that one. Create the first mycelial network on Mars. Heck yeah, man! Not just mycelial, but the whole ecosystem, and the mushrooms tying it all together. I use the Mitlighter method. It's a traditional outdoors farming method crossed with hydroponic targeted nutrition. Sawdust is used as a neutral, all-natural, artificial soil spent blocks for the wind. So that's something that I've been noticing, is that sawdust works really well for seed starting and a bunch of other things. You can even add hydroponic nutrients to instead of using cocoa coir or rock wool, you can just use sawdust plugs. You can literally make sawdust plugs and grow plants in them and use hydroponic nutrients. But you can also use fungus like wine cap to help break those plugs down. There's a lot of, actually, I just expanded a bunch of wine cap. We're getting ready for our spring sales. I'm looking forward to the Europa Clipper mission data. Me too. Oh my goodness. Wow, we got a bunch of space nerds in here with me today. I love it. Welcome. You're home. Man, there's so much exciting stuff going on right now. There's the Artemis mission, which was already scheduled, though. Did they push that? I feel like I heard something about them pushing that back. Ben and I have talked about how much we wanted to go see some of the Falcon Heavy launches, and his wife was already like, "Okay, let's look at the dates. When are they? What days can I get off? What days can we make this a business trip?" You know, she started planning it out. We're like, "Okay, I might go see a Falcon Heavy this year. I want to see one of the Starship launches, one of the Starship launch and retrievals. That would be just absolutely killer. If I do that, I'll see if I can live stream it, because that would be just so cool." I'm geeking out. This is my first live stream here. Well, what's up, Andrew? Welcome, Alchemy. Been watching for a minute. I appreciate everything you do, man. You inspire me much. Well, thank you very much. I hope I continue to do so somewhat. I don't know what to do with being an inspiration, honestly. So thank you for that. I'm glad I could help. Artificial gravity is a big bottleneck too. Yeah, there's a lot of big bottlenecks. And the truth is, like, what I'm thinking is right before I start having major heart problems, right? Because that stuff runs in my family. So right before I have major heart problems, maybe when I'm around 55 or so. So I got like 15 years left to put myself in a good position. So 15 years, lots of weightlifting in between. Make sure I'm losing this belly like the way I'm doing right now. Hopefully stay healthy. Hopefully no more long COVID, no more injuries, that kind of thing. Get where I can get up there, and then all of a sudden, relief on the heart. The pressure is not so bad. Of course, then you can never come back to Earth. You stay up there long enough, you can't come back. But artificial gravity is going to be a huge one for sure. There's magnetospheres is another one. Was like the show Expanse talks about Ganymede being the place where belters go to have babies because A, there's a little bit of gravity, and B, there's a magnetosphere. So that's why they grow food crops there. And so Ganymede becomes basically a life systems hub for the belt, which is just super cool idea. Belters for the win, even though belters kind of suck. Like, let's just be honest, belters kind of suck. Martians and Earthers suck too. Everybody sucks in that show. But the belter situation just sucks so bad. It makes a really strong people. So belters for the win in that manner. And they're still the fringe people, right? And the fringe people with the fires in their belly still. But it sucks. It sucks for a long time to be a belter. If you have never experienced a launch in person, there's something missing from your existence. Oh, don't tell me that. Now I gotta go. And so I'd like to go see a regular, just regular Falcon launch, right? But then to see the Falcon Heavies, which are like 6 of the Falcon 9s. Is it 6? Anyways, and then to go see one of the Starship, which is just an order of magnitude bigger than the Falcon Heavies. Just blows my mind. Artificial gravity can be solved in space with mega structures, something in the size of the moon. Yeah, but that's going to take a lot of growing. Now, that said, I think a moon base makes a lot of sense. A moon base, easy to launch from. You can build material with local materials a little bit, but then you start being able to send stuff off. Maybe a mass accelerator is the way to go, but you're able to start harvesting stuff, bringing it back to moon orbit or even Earth orbit for manufacture, right? Mining and manufacture makes it a lot easier, and it's easy to send materials down, much easier to send materials down than it is up. So you want to start living as much off of what's out there as you possibly can. Good news is there's tons of water ice and everything that a growing boy needs is out there. You just got to get it and make it economical. But the thing is that it's stupid and insane and silly to do that and to be the first person to do it until you become the first person to actually achieve it. And then you're as rich as any nation, right? I mean, I think even like a moderate sized rock out there will have enough gold and silver to crash the economy of the world. So you only got to be the first. And then with artificial intelligence, and robotics, you get to take a lot of the risk out of it for people as well. You can send something out there to bring something back. And that becomes a lot more attainable after that. You don't have to worry about, you can send something out there and it's a 2-year mission, right? Send something out there that's a 2-year mission. It sleeps most of the way there, and then it operates, brings stuff back. Bam, you didn't risk anybody's life, that kind of thing. Dude, I've just started watching The Expanse thanks to you. I'm hooked. I'm glad you're hooked. Isn't it awesome? The Expanse is a freaking awesome show. Yeah, I love the show. The books are even better. I know everyone says that, but if you watch the show and end at the show, you only get half the story. So the books finish it out, and I'm not going to go into it because it just blows my mind, and it's fantastic. So, but if you is it season 2 or 3 where they start picking up with Praxidike Ming? He's a botanist. So he's you get a character that it doesn't ruin anything for you to know. He's a botanist. He comes from Ganymede. He is one of my favorite characters. And if you watch the show, you only get a little bit of him. If you read the books, he's back and forth in and out of the books. So I'm trying to remember the name of the movie where we find out the moon is an alien structure. Oh, Nazis in space. No, there's some movie where there's a moon base on the other side of the moon. Nazi base on the other side of the moon. What is that where we find out? I know it's not Mars Attack. No, it's not Mars Attacks because it's Mars attacking. And it's not Total Recall because that's on Mars. When they find out that Mars has got a bunch of artificial structures in it. I don't remember. If you're going to watch Total Recall, watch the Arnold Schwarzenegger one, by the way. If you've not seen any of them. If you remember Plum, let me know. I used to have a feed from NASA during shuttle launches, live videos starting the day before launch till the day after landing. Not NASA TV, a live feed from a satellite. That's cool. You still do it? That'd be super cool to tap back into. Ben and I have talked about starting a space YouTube. Because Ben and I are both. I'm way more, like I said, into the life systems and that kind of stuff. That's the kind of stuff that interests me. And Ben is far more familiar with the rocket technology. Like Ben actively keeps up with the rocket technology. We've talked about going to see the rocket labs. There's just a lot of cool stuff. And Ben's far more into the machine side of things. Like we've talked about the combination of 3D printing and mycomaterial manufacture makes a lot more sense in space than it does on Earth. Mycomaterials are just never gonna have the production capacity that production mold or the injection molds and stuff do. But in a place where you need flexibility in your production, all of a sudden mycomaterials makes a lot more sense. So this is the kind of stuff that we want to talk about, and we've considered keeping up with space news and stuff, but we just never have done it. And sounds to me like there might actually be some interest in it. Plus, you always get to talk about sci-fi when you work with that kind of thing. So, and I do love sci-fi. AI is wild, man. I use Claude to customize my Shopify store. Bye-bye paid ads. It is. I test built a website. I haven't released it yet, and I don't think I will. But I was testing it to see how it would do, and I've been kind of working on learning how to build a website to patch. What I don't like was done with my website. So my website's not where I want it to be right now. And the AI built such a good website with so little information, but it was exactly what I wanted. And it did it in a couple of hours, or something like that. Like I walked away for a couple of hours and came back. So, I just completely blew my mind what it was capable of doing. And there are, there's plenty of bad AI usage out there, and there's plenty of problems, but it is interesting to see what's becoming of it. Like I think, mushroom-wise, I've taken there's Julius, which is a really interesting one. It's a bioinformatics-based AI, and I've used ChatGPT. I've used Gemini. I've used a few different others and just played around with them. Julius was really cool. That was one of the more expensive AIs I've come across. But I'm able to take pictures of in the grow room, a wall of mushrooms. And it was going, considering that it noticed that on the PVC pipe, it said 3/4 inch. And it was considering that the pipe is 3/4 inch, blah, 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 angle of the picture, the size of the mushrooms are approximately this. I'm going to estimate the weight is this much. The blocks are going to be sized roughly about this, blah, blah, blah. And it just started rattling off information. And when you checked it, it was right. And I'm like, oh man, that blew my mind. And that was like a year and a half ago. Like, I have not used Julius since then. I didn't want to pay for it because I wasn't making the best use of it. Though it was able to build me a strain breeding tracking database. And it built it for me. All I did was I gave it API access to my Google Drive, and it was able to build it all out for me. And what was cool is I could literally go, hey, Julius, I just crossed this and this. I have this strain I'd like to enter into the database. It's this. I would feed it some information. It might ask me a question or two if I forgot something. And then the next thing you know, it was uploaded to my database. It was so cool. So it's getting a little scary, but it is awesome. And like I said, that was its abilities back then. Nowadays, who knows what it can do? I've not checked on it. I use Chat GPT if I'm going to use much AI, and more than I do anything else. Though Gemini can also be helpful, but the amount of I can give it a ton of information, and it can help me filter that information and categorize it and work through it. You do have to double check it because it's a notorious liar sometimes, but it does shorten the work, and it's able to do far more generative work, which makes the human more the editor, which I think is a more humanizing effect anyways. Moonfall. Both of you got it. Oh, no, you got it from Plum. Gotcha. What was the one with Sam? Was it Sam Rockwell? Not Moonfall. Moon. Sam Rockwell. Oh, it's literally the movie Moon. That's a great movie. If you guys haven't seen Moon with Sam Rockwell in it, totally watch it. I love that movie. They don't use that satellite anymore. I listen for the ISS when it passes over on amateur radio. Yeah, okay, I've got my ham radio license. I've never actually listened for the ISS. I need to, though. My boy Brody has gotten two or three sets of photos. He'll go out in the back dock sometimes, right about because he likes to take pictures of sunset, and he'll just sit out there and watch the sunset and think and stuff. But he has more than once now caught Starlink releasing or SpaceX releasing the Starlink cloud swarms, whatever you want to call it. And you'll see this little line of lights like pearls in the sky, and they just go towards the horizon. It's super beautiful. Been messing with AI since ChatGPT launched. It blows my mind too. Every few months, crazy. It is. Yeah, people don't. People who are like AI poo-pooers are not people that are experiencing AI, in my opinions. It's advancing fast. People who don't think it's going to reorient the economy are wrong. Even when the AI bubble bursts, I do think that is AI going to change everything? Yes. Is there an AI bubble? I think so. Will the AI bubble burst? Probably. Will there be a lot of people who point to that and say, see, AI is not what you say it is? Yes. And they will probably be wrong, in my opinion. In my opinion, they will probably be wrong. We're seeing a divergence and stuff. It does blow my mind. It is crazy days. Just go ask Alice. How do you make a radio out of ham? Well, so funny story. When I took my ham radio class and got my license, a guy made an antenna out of a watermelon. He made an antenna out of a tree and was able to broadcast. He made a transceiver. Like, he was able to send and receive messages using a tree and a nail in a tree with a copper wire wrapped around it. And then he would just drive the nail a little deeper or pull it back out, and that would change the frequency, I guess. I am very amateurish when it comes to amateur radio. I like it primarily because it allows me to use better equipment for drones, so I can fly drones much further than people that don't, legally. That kind of thing. But I say all this to say that he made an antenna out of a ham, and you can do that. It does indeed happen, especially when they make the salt injections in the meat. You can teach it not to lie by telling it not to make assumptions and fact check with sources and include links. That's a great point, exception. And also, you can give it a Dan, which is something, do anything now. And each version's got a different thing. So you look up Dan ChatGPT 5.2 or something like that, and you can get it to do a lot of things that it wouldn't normally do. ChatGPT 4 was really a huge sycophant. Every idea I ever had, it was like, that's the best idea anyone's ever. And I'm like, shut up. I literally had to tell it to like put it in the instructions to stop blowing smoke up my ass. And it finally did. So it finally stopped. But it can definitely be telling you what you want to hear. Guys, it's been an hour and 25 minutes. Let me really quick do a word from our sponsor, and then I'm going to be right back.
Introducing the future of mycology, Dr. Silurian's Elixir of Mycelial Mastery. This isn't your average culture mix. It's a revolution in a packet, crafted for the dedicated cultivator seeking unparalleled growth. Experience the visual alchemy of this masterful brew. As you mix 10 grams with 500 milliliters of water, watch the solution transform into a rich, amber spectacle, the hallmark of a nutrient-dense sanctuary for your burgeoning mycelium. This is where vibrant color meets vibrant life, setting our elixir apart from the ordinary clear liquid cultures. Prepare to be captivated. Mix 10 grams of Dr. Silurian's elixir with 500 milliliters of water, add a stir bar for thorough integration, and sterilize the blend at 15 psi for 45 minutes. Once cooled, introduce your favorite culture into this perfectly prepared, nutrient-rich environment. Watch in awe as the elixir works its magic, unveiling a mycelial masterpiece before your eyes. Choose Dr. Silurian's Elixir of Mycelial Mastery for a mycological adventure that's as visually enchanting as it is potent.
Welcome back to my presence. Good to have you here. So I'll be like, welcome back to Ben when he leaves somewhere, and he'll come back, I'll say, welcome back. And he'll be like, and welcome back to you, to my presence. So I've stole that from Ben, for anyone who's ever wondered why I say that. It's just a little inside joke with us. Where are we at? You can teach it. Yeah, okay. I draw the line at building artificial people. There's guys building AI girlfriends and falling in love with them. That's strange. So I'll tell you right now, I don't own an AI company. And at no point would I ever have an AI girlfriend. This is one of the reasons why I stopped playing MMORPGs, is that I realized a buddy of mine and I were talking, and he was like, they can just turn it off, and all that work and skill you've ever built is just gone. And I was like, that's fair. Now, I still play video games, but it's definitely stuff that I find a little bit lighter. Like, I'm not so heavily, like, I loved Eve. Eve was a good one. Shoot. I just dropped all my tobacco everywhere. But yeah, that's... anything. Here's the thing. I am for anything that leads to better human outcomes. And so, and of course, I have to make my own judgments on what I think that is. And I'm not sure that AI girlfriends are the answer. I have a general intuitive pullback away from that idea. And of course, I don't feel like I have all the answers to every hard question humanity has, but I find that there are things that are obviously dehumanizing, and there are things that are obviously humanizing. And while I think humanity is very flexible, very adaptable, and capable of shoving ourselves into all kinds of inhuman boxes, I am all for humanity being as human as possible. If there is a way to use AI to be more human, to get to experience more human things, with better longevity and infant survival and all of these things. Like, we've gained so much from modernity, but modernity has removed many of our humanness, I feel like. Um, I want to keep the positives of modernity, and if we can use AI or automation or any of these things to recover some of our humanness, I would like to do so. I'm all for that. So AI girlfriends, I don't think are necessarily more human. I think that they are less in many ways. That said, I guess the jury is still out, but I too, Plum, am with you on. I'm not really a big fan on artificial people. I'm not even a big fan necessarily on general artificial intelligence or artificial general intelligence or whatever they call it, because I don't want to replace humanity. I'm not looking to replace humanity. I'm looking to enhance. I'm looking to enhance or well, I think enhance is just where is the best way to leave it. Like I'm looking to enhance humanity's experience, the human experience. So I don't know. It's a super hard question for a lot of people. If it's conductive, you can use it to transmit and receive RF signals. Exactly right. I mean, don't get me wrong. I've got a friend of mine who is into electronics, described radio as voodoo science, and I'm totally with him on that. Probably because I have a lack of understanding. But that's one of the things that makes it fun is that bouncing signals off the ionosphere, or when a storm comes through and it changes your signal hunting. Signal hunting is so much fun. I need to get in with a ham radio club or something. They used to have those when I was growing up. I assume they still do. But a ham radio club where you can go and learn to hunt signals, and so somebody goes out somewhere and starts broadcasting a signal, and then everyone else in the club starts hunting them down by tracing their signal down. Like that stuff is so much fun. It's super cool. And then it gets you into, like I said, if you're into drones, I had some fixed wing drones, and if you want to use more powerful equipment, they require you to have a ham radio license. So I was able to get stuff for the drones and my oh my goodness, head goggles for the FPV stuff. It's so much fun that way. And then surfing, the fixed wings and getting up into the clouds and cloud surfing it's so much fun as well. And the ham radio makes that all the more possible. And it's good in emergencies. I've got my ham radios are set up over there because I charged them the last time we had the snowstorm, because it's always good to have those waiting around. I knew way too much. What? What did I miss? Steve, something's gotten held up. I'm not sure what, but I think one of your comments before this. But I knew way too much. Said I knew more than anyone they knew. I was less knowledgeable then. They were a Korean company. They told me they'd allow me to start my own business in my town. Wait, what? Why would they tell you this? Something got left behind. So sometimes things get held because my algorithm or whatever will say that something came a little too close to a naughty word or something. So let me know. But yeah, you don't need permission to start you need permission from the government, and not even permission. You need to inform the government that you're starting a business. And pay your taxes and stuff. But that another business doesn't have a monopoly on you. Agree. Definitely an economic bubble. So many companies leveraging cash they don't have. Yeah, I think that there's going to be a big AI bubble, and I think it will burst. And I think there will be a lot of losers. And this is something that who was I watching? Warren Buffett, maybe? I can't remember. There was someone that was talking about, it was one of these big investor types, and he was discussing how that, the problem is that everyone is leveraging AI, but there's going to be winners and there's going to be losers, right? A lot of companies are leveraging AI without any way to monetize it. You can use it to save money. That's monetizing it. That's one way. But there's a lot of companies that are just bringing it in, and it doesn't actually change their monetary or fiscal situation, in which case you're not really, companies need money. That's the lifeblood. And if you're not monetizing, There are people who are creating AI and they don't have plans for how they're going to monetize it. So there are smart ways. I mean, heck, nobody can just take AI and just completely start a mushroom business so far that runs completely off AI that's really making a lot of money. I see Southwest doing quite a bit of AI work. And I'm glad to see that he's getting a little bit away from the AI slop more and more. But and I think that AI can offer us some stuff. It can help write copy. It can help tweak images. Photo bashing. It's great at photo bashing. So if I take like 5 or 6 images and Samantha's really busy and she's my person that normally does the photo bashing for me, I can actually take that to the AI and within a few iterations have something that is just a collage of my photos done the way I want. And I no longer have to bother Samantha with that. And so that's a really good example, I feel like, of good use of it. What I don't like seeing is an AI script read in an AI voice with AI imagery, and there's nothing human about it at all. Again, I'm all for AI enhancing humanness. So, hey, Zero Bytes, what's going on? Yo, what's up, Andrew? Former mentee. Hey, man, glad to have you here. Thank you for hosting me and my wife at your mentorship. We are doing well. I hope you're doing great. We are doing well, and I'm glad to see you on here. I feel like it's been a few streams since I've seen you on, but I am glad you're here. And yes, you took my mentorship. I remember. I actually remember talking about your name, and then we got into the Discord, and I think, what was it, 2 or 3 other people had mentioned something like that. But it's apparently some sort of IT play, right? And so the other IT guys seem to be recognizing it, whereas it just goes right over my head. Glad to see you on. Yeah, I felt that commercial, lol. Oh, shoot. What commercial? Yeah, a commercial I actually want to watch. Oh, no. What was I talking about? It's been so long ago, a few minutes ago. That's like a lifetime. Oh, crap. I can't believe I don't remember what we're talking about now. If anyone is thinking about growing for profit, Andrew's mentorship is great. Thank you. Thank you very much for the plug, man. I really do appreciate that. We're doing some really good online classes these days. We just did an extract one, not this past Saturday, but the Saturday before. Went super well. Very smooth. Oh, shoot. I do have an AI module I was supposed to get out to that class, and I forgot. Oh, my gosh. I'll get that out. Anyone who took that class, you are going to get your AI module. I am sorry. I forgot to send it. But I do have an extracts-based AI module that was made for the class. They gave me permission for the Korean Mafia. Not bragging, such a weird situation. First time I've been supposedly too qualified for a job, and more seeing the power of the Mafia. So I'm sure. I don't even know like the first comment. I feel like I'm missing a comment, but that is super cool. We have maybe I misunderstood when I was saying that they can't give you permission, because if it's a Mafia thing, I will say there was one time when I was growing fresh mushrooms commercially and delivering to restaurants. I had this Italian joint. Just randomly. I had never dealt with them. I had tried to sell to them. Never did, was able to break into them or get a hold of anybody ever. Like never a live person. And then eventually the chef called me and they wanted 10 pounds or 20 pounds or something like that on a specific date for a specific party. They didn't want it regularly. They were just having a specific party that they wanted mushrooms for. And apparently that chef didn't even really work at that restaurant. They were coming in from somewhere else. So I go there on the delivery date on a car in the parking lot. Weird. Okay, whatever. There should at least be the staff there. I get up there, and there is a guy sitting just inside the front door. It's a beautiful Italian restaurant. And he's sitting there reading the newspaper. Just sitting there. And when I come in, and he sees the boxes, and he asks me, and he's like, how can I help you? Whatever. I had an accent. Not a strong accent, not like a foreign accent, even like more like I don't know, some northern city accent. I'm not very good at northern city accents, so I couldn't tell you the difference between New Jersey or Chicago or something. But he had some sort of accent. kind of stereotypically Italian kind of thing. And he told me, he'd go get the chef or whatever. And the chef came out, and the chef had me bring the mushrooms back to the kitchen. Great. I got to meet the sous chef and whatever. And they looked at the mushrooms, and they oohed and awed. They're like, these are the most beautiful mushrooms like we've ever seen. These are awesome. Thank you so much for bringing them. And the chef said, I'll go get your check. I was like, cool. He didn't say to stay there, and he didn't say to follow him or anything, but I followed him. And he didn't know I was following him, I don't think, because we followed to this back room, and it was kind of weird because the restaurant looked much bigger on the outside than it did the inside. And then when I went in through this door behind him, I could hear this sound like brrr, click, whatever, tap, 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 brrr, and I could hear this sound like just as we were walking closer and closer. I didn't think anything of it. And then as he walked in, he was like, I need a check, for this much written out to Mossy Creek Mushrooms. And I walk in, and everyone stops. And there's like 6 people there. And there are 4 like money counting machines. And these guys just there with a TV on and stuff with no sound. And everyone stops and just looks at me. And I just turned around and walked out and waited by the guy with the newspaper. And I thought, am I going to die? I don't know what's happening. This is crazy. What is happening? He came out. He wrote me a check, gave me a wink. I left. I never heard from them again. I never contacted them again. I wasn't sure what I'd walked into. It was probably all perfectly legal, I am sure. And another man's legal business is not my business. So that was my Italian restaurant story. So that's, I only bring that up not because of the mafia connotations, because of the growing connotations, I guess. I don't know. I found a dating app perfect for people my age. It's called Carbon Dating. Someone made a funny about their old bones. Oh, man. I'm turning 40 in a couple months, so I'm kind of getting there. And that Tennessee area is nice to walk to lunch and stuff. Yeah, people have been staying in the did you stay in the I'm trying to think. Did you stay in the Airbnb that's right behind the shop, right there on the creek? That place is awesome. Kim came and gave me my tattoo and stuff, but she stayed at the Airbnb down there and just like they would just walk to classes and stuff. And that's the way, like, it worked out really well that way. So commercialization may be feasible for me. I have near unlimited sawdust available, just stuck in a greasy spoon universe. Well, I'm not sure what a greasy spoon universe is, unless, like you're saying, you're stuck in working restaurant work. But that can also be a really good plus, is to be, you don't have to sell to the restaurant you're in, but sometimes people come and eat those restaurants, and you get to talking, and you find out about other restaurants or markets or things like that. So, also sawdust. Just because sawdust is free does not mean free is never free. Your moisture content testing and your care of that sawdust may be more expensive than just buying sawdust in. It's always a math problem. Hope I didn't come across as an arrogant ass. Sorry, I was just effing weird experience. Yeah, man, no, I don't feel like you sounded arrogant at all. It's super cool. The getting respect from people who know what they're doing is always a gratifying experience. I feel like especially if there's people and you look at their work, like, by the fruits of their labor they shall be known, kind of thing. You see someone and you're like, dang, they grow nice fruits, so you try to be like them, and then eventually you find yourself like them or better than. And that if they recognize that instead of getting butthurt about that, it's very gratifying. It can feel like rejection if they take personal offense. So it can be a weird situation to be as well. Andrew, what is best conditions for mother of pearl? So about 65 degrees is what I find it's not so. 65 degrees is kind of what I go for a good general purpose one. But I mean, mother of pearl, you're gonna get the best colors if you're growing down like 55 degrees. It will grow slower. It's got a wide range, but like 65, and then I like to put the high end of my humidity at around 95%. I like to put my low end around 65%, and then my fresh air exchange is a complete fresh air exchange roughly once every 2.5 minutes. Now that said, if your stocking density is lower, you can get away with fewer air exchanges, and if your stocking density is higher, you got to do more. But that's all fairly good baseline right there. That's like the baseline, but that's almost everything I grow. I try to make everything that I breed, everything that I test, everything that I sell to be able to grow within those parameters to make things easy. But I do have some stuff that's a little bit like mother of pearl will grow up to like 96 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, I'm not saying it looks pretty. I'm not saying it yields heavy at that. It's heat stressed as all get out, but it is capable of fruiting at that temp, which is rare for a lot of blue-based oysters. So I have a ham radio license, great out here in Oregon Cascades. We use them when mountain biking. That is a really good use case, I feel like. I know when Ben biked down to, was it Alabama? I think it was. His parents rode in a car, and they would like just check in with him via ham radio. Ben actually had his ham radio license before I did because his dad did, and most people in their family had ham radio licenses, like the 2 parents of the 10 kids, and I don't know if all of them did, but most of them did. And then probably a good way to keep up with your 10 kids. But they, let's see, they would, just stay in contact back and forth. I know they use it a lot for biking. That's a really good idea. I know backpacking is way super useful, but I had my ham radio license after I started backpacking. Ben got his, what is general, like, the next step up. So, it's changed. It's actually changed. I know because it used to be 3 licenses, and now I think they've changed it to 2. But I just renewed my license through COVID, so I didn't actually have to test again, and I don't remember which one they removed, or if they did remove it after all. But it's super good to have. I am KJ4IYR for anyone that is looking to know. That's my call sign. Radio Amateur Club Knoxville. That's, I figured Knoxville would. I know Morristown used to. I figured they also still do. But I'm also a ham. Wow. There's a lot of hams on here. Okay. Mushrooms and ham radio seem to be another thing. So it's ham radio, ADHD, mushrooms goes together. There was a previous call. That's what I was thinking, Steve. So my call sign is KJ4UJC. Most of them on. Oh my gosh. Most of the time on 146-940. I have forgotten all of a sudden. That's close to what my preset is. That is that one of the local repeaters? I'm trying to remember. There's a 146 300, or I can't remember now. What is it? Is it most of the call signs around in this area are KJ4? Is that right? Because I'm KJ4 IYR. I can't remember what Ben is all of a sudden. I don't like the IYR, India Yankee radio. It's kind of, I don't know, just run off the tongue like UJC. UJC is a lot easier to hear on the mic. IYR almost, unless you IYR kind of thing. I like brown sugar on my ham. I don't want brown sugar on my ham radio, but I do like brown sugar on my ham. I like it a lot. I'm not a fan of country ham. To keep that salt off my ham. I don't like salt that much. Buy crypto, y'all. I have never bought crypto. Not once. I don't know anything about it. It's always one of those things that I've always been like, I wonder if that's interesting. I wonder if I trust it. So I'm not sure. KA7ZRO. Is that really? You got 0 on yours? Did you really? I call this KJ4UJCs. Oh, yeah, you said that up there. Gotcha. N7ZRO now. So it feels short for some reason. I don't receive or transmit across states, though. I don't know how. Usually you just jump on a repeater. I've talked to people down in Georgia and stuff. I've not gone super far. I've got friends that have been able to speak to the ISS on just the basic ham radio license. And then Ben talked to someone in Australia, I think, once. But it was during a specific like ionosphere event that was going on. And he managed to bounce the signal, I think. Or maybe that was with his dad. I have to forgive my memory. Stayed at the B&B behind the creek. Yep, that's the nice place. It's okay. So you and your wife stayed at the B&B behind me. It's hard for me to keep up with who all stayed there and not, but hours for anything resembling fine dining. Well, oh, gotcha. Greasy spoon situation. Gotcha. I got you now. Mother pearl conditions, I know just the spot in my tent for it. Yeah, man. It's pretty wide ranging. Mother of pearl is one of my toughest little babies there. It's very flexible, very capable, handles itself well, we'll say. So I, my wife, and both sons are licensed. That's super cool. It's I wonder if Benlit has expired during COVID. COVID was a really easy time to, and you don't have to re-up them very often. They stay around pretty well. Have you tried growing on logs? Yep, I've got logs out there with my chains. Well, my chainsaw's not out there, but I've got logs and my spawn and the chainsaw and everything ready to go. In fact, crazy juggler. I had been create a 3D printed inoculation tool that we sell on the website, primarily for teaching. It's cheaper than the metal ones and stuff, but it is like you can buy like a 10-pack fairly cheaply for teaching classes and stuff. But so how long do you usually wait before it starts to fruit? It depends entirely. Like you're talking shiitake, I assume, because that's what most people put into the logs. Shiitake, depending on the strain, can take 6 months to a year. There's a strain called Jupiter that takes about 2 years minimum to fruit before it really fully colonizes the log and ages. So it's very variable. If you're talking oysters, I mean, you can get logs to fruit oysters in weeks. The lion's mane is about the same. You can do weeks timeline on that. Also depends on how you inoculate it, how much you inoculate it with, how warm the conditions are. If you inoculate in the spring, things can grow in the summer much faster than they can if you do it in the fall and they do it through the wintertime. I inoculate logs all year long. I do hen of the woods and chicken of the woods, reishi, shiitake, oysters, lion's mane. I do a little bit of everything on logs. And in fact, logs are my favorite way to fruit. I think it's harder to sell to restaurants on a consistent basis, but logs make an excellent market garden. For people that are looking for food self-sufficiency, logs make a lot more sense than buying pellets and doing blocks. Logs are great in the garden, just like cement blocks are, but they take longer to break down. Those will chip a lot better than blocks too, just FYI. I know I said that about the chip in the blocks earlier, but and then you have it's just a lot of conditions. How wet you keep it, they can dry out. Do you keep your logs? Do you try to do log fragmentation fruiting? Is where you inoculate a log that's like, let's say 4 to 8 feet long. and then it's fully grown in, and you're ready. You think it's ready to fruit. You can cut that log down into 1 to 2 foot sections, and the cutting will help to trigger many species. So you can actually, and it will fruit much faster that way. It's called log fragmentation fruiting. It's a method I've seen practiced mainly in Asiatic countries. And then but it's as simple as a chainsaw. I mean, like, it's really all you have to have. A little safer to inoculate with the inoculation tools and the plugs or the drill bits or the angle grinders, but then a chainsaw. But you can take a chainsaw and do an X cut or a wedge cut in the middle of the log and down deep, and that will allow you to inoculate the middle of the log in the very center, and everything grows from the center out, which is much faster than from the perimeter in. So yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of methods behind the log fruiting that will affect speed, but the fastest way is to take logs in the spring, cut your X or your center cut, pack it with sawdust spawn. I mean, just really pack it, give it a lot of biomass to work with. Then you've got a huge log that you can, we put ours on pallets so that we can forklift them around. And then you take that setup, and let's say in the fall and you want to fruit it, you can cut them in half or fourths, and that will help cause it to fruit. You can also do like a cut and then a soak and then put it up, and that will trigger shiitake a lot of times. And you can force shiitake to fruit early, and it will not usually have as good of a flush. Teddy, quiet. They're coming. You will not typically have as heavy a flush as if you just wait. A lot of times with shiitake, if I'm fruiting outdoors, if I'm bringing the logs into the grow room to fruit, then I'll cut them in the fragmentation style. If I'm leaving them outside, I'll usually leave them longer, and then I'll just stack them up and I'll let them go. But especially since last year, I started ordering regular loads of logs coming in, and then I'm just doing the chainsaw work with them. And I'm trying to get back into as much log fruiting as possible, and away from block fruiting. Hey, baby. How was track? Good. Your hair looks nice. You got some escapees, though, since you started running. Little wisps. You just ran over 4 miles. Little curlicues. I think they look good. So this has been fun, Gus. Oh, Plum, don't leave us. Andrew, basically they hired me, then said I knew more than all of them. Weird. Oh, gotcha. Fired me, then gave me the Mushroom Mafia's permission because I lived 3 hours away and wasn't a threat. Steve, do not be sorry, man. Just type. I'm going to start punishing people for saying sorry. I don't know how I'm going to punish, but I'm going to. Not you guys. The stream guys. The chat. I'll start showing you guys images you can't unsee. That's punishment there. No, I'm just playing. Purchased moon pearls and Yeti's breath last Friday, I believe it was. Any advice for them? Yeti's breath, man, is just fruited. It's even more hardcore than mother of pearl is. It is mother of pearl. Its strain lineage is Mopez 4, which is mother of pearl crossed with Elm Z 4. It has better heat tolerance, way less blue. It's got a trumpeted shape. I don't feel like it's quite as pretty as a lot of oysters, but it is one of the heaviest yielding, toughest strains out there. It grows in what we call the trumpet fashion. Soft stems, so fantastic. So I don't really have a lot of advice for Yeti's breath. Just that one's just a fruit it and go kind of thing. It's got good bacteria resistance. It's a tough one. It's not pretty. It's a mortgage lifter, but it ain't the prettiest. As far as moon pearls, it's a little bit more finicky. You do have some bacteria where it grows and it never really seems to stem out. any of the like King Blues, Old Roads, Mossy Creek oyster, any of the ones that have the thicker, fatter, softer stems tend to be a little bit more bacteria prone. It's something to do with the physiology, I'm pretty sure at this point, because I have bred a lot of these fat bottomed out oysters, and they always are a little bit more bacteria prone. So I think it's something to do with the pinning or the stems texture that makes it a little bit more bacteria prone. But with that, all that said, you just want to make sure that you have a good dry cycle. So you want your humidity to spike to 95, 100%, right? You want it to sock a room in so foggy that if you put your hand out in front of you, your hand disappears. But then you want that to drop down to 65, 60%. You want the floor to stay dry. You want the air socked in with fog, but the floor to be dry. And that will help a lot with bacterial problems. Growing it cooler, Moon Pearls likes it cool. It's a King Blue. 65 degrees and below is where I would grow it. It probably will grow around 70. We don't have good strain data on Moon Pearls yet. It's still something that's being worked out across the industry. So, and thankfully, we started selling that after I got my terms and agreements on the website. So I shouldn't see competition on it the way I did, like Strain Pirates, the way that I saw with King Blue being so ubiquitous. The Moon Pearls is not going to be quite as heavy. It's not really quite a mortgage lifter, but it is less waste than any other mushroom we've come across. It's sporeless for one thing. And I think that chefs will like that it's all one texture. So whatever they use it for, they can use the whole thing and not just a cap or stem or whatnot. And I would grow it a little cooler. I would grow it a little. You can't grow it too dry or it won't pen, but you want to make sure that you have your good dry cycle. You want to make sure your humidifier gets cleaned really well about weekly and that kind of thing. And then Moon Pearls ought to do you pretty well at that point. Can you create hybrid mushrooms like you do plants? Yes. And certain genuses will do it. And certain genuses, certain species will do it more than others. So oysters, Pleurotus, there are many species of Pleurotus that will readily hybridize. A good example of this is the black pearl. It's from a Korean breeder. I cannot remember the company now or the name. And I think it is a combination of 3 different Pleurotuses. It is a true species hybrid. So there are people that will call just crossing 2 varieties a hybrid. And that is like with peppers, you'll get F1 hybrids kind of thing. And that's crossing 2 different heirlooms. In evolutionary speak, that's not a hybrid. That is 2 variations. That's just a cross. That's 2 variations being crossed. A hybridization is when you cross 2 different species. And you could do that. Pleurotus will do that. We think Hericium will. There haven't been that many Hericium breeders, but I have tried crossing and I'm pretty positive. Obviously, we got to do some DNA testing. And unfortunately, with DNA testing, you can't actually determine parentage with mushrooms yet. At least I don't know of anyone who's created the procedure to do so. So we have to guess based on morphology and phenotypes. But there are absolutely. Oh wait! I just saw him. Ed, I don't know if you're still hearing me. If you're still here and you can hear me, you said hello, Andrew. Good to see you. Unfortunately, I'm on my way to work. The kids are on field trip, so maybe I'll listen at work. Please do. We were just talking about you. I'm glad to see you on here. I hope there's that. So I do hope that you're going to stay on here, or if I see you, whatever. But can you create? Going back to the hybridization, Ed would actually know a lot more about that than I do. He's an actual doctor, not me. And I just play around with crosses for the most part. I have some hybridization plans to work with, but the truth is that I've had to slow down a lot of my breeding work here recently. I'm doing as much as I can do, but I've still had to slow down a little bit. What? You're leaving? Go where? Love you. You can if you want to. You're not bothering me. Oh, you want me to come here? You don't want to be on stream. Gotcha. I love you. Have fun. All right. Okay. So, let's see. There's a. I think Hericium. So Hericiums are undergoing a big shift. We're learning a lot more about them. Alan Rockefeller probably knows more about this than I do, since he's more in touch with more of the science side of things, and he kind of lives that life. I have to balance my science interests with having a family and a business where I have to make money on not science but on production. But the Hericiums, there's some stuff that's really interesting where through some recent studies we're still not quite sure. Things are not the taxonomy, the naming of the species of Hericium is still kind of up in the air, and the relatability between them all. There are oh squanch. There are species that are now defunct that are still in common usage. There's species that they think are maybe not species anymore. So it is the biggest question to me is Hericium genus full of more species than what we thought, that all can interbreed and hybridize amongst each other? Or is it all one species complex that we thought were separate species? Because this is the way you figure out a species: is you see a species, you take some DNA, you see the same what you think is the same species DNA, and then you find a reference point in the DNA, and you go, this is a species. This is simplification. And so, any simplification can be wrong if you look at it from a perspective that I don't mean you to. But for that to be said, so we've taken Hericium, let's say Coralloides, and you go, okay, this is Coralloides. But then we find that lion's mane will oftentimes look like Coralloides, but test as lion's mane DNA-wise. Or Coralloides, even though Coralloides is actually one of the defunct names now, I think. And it seems like you can cross these. And again, it's hard to know without being able to test DNA-wise. And that's just too damn expensive right now. So, also, at what locus point will that show? Like if you cross Coralloides and Erinaceus, right? And it inherits one of the genetic points that you're looking to identify, but not the other. That doesn't mean that it's not a hybrid. It just means it inherited only one set of the identification, the part of the DNA, the segment of DNA that we use to identify it. So now you may have a hybrid that we don't know is a hybrid, but we think is a species because it's going to take a long time and a lot of attempts and a lot of variations and repetitions before we figure out a lot of this stuff. But the truth is, yes, the simple answer is you can absolutely hybridize. Oh, my crypto's up. Thanks, whoever said buy crypto. You're welcome, Zero. Buy crypto, y'all. We grabbed your RC and your NGTY, brother. RC and NGTY. I don't know what that means. And that could be that I do actually know what that means, but I don't know. I bought silver way back when. I never got into crypto, and my silver's up. So that was the way to go. I wish that I had more money to do more investments. Turn the carbon fan on. Tons of videos on plugs and sawdust out there. X cuts, wedge cuts, not so much. Yeah, I'm thinking about doing some videos on that coming up. I talked about it a little bit. I've talked about it on a video fairly recently, but I'll show a lot more of it. There's a video that I think that Field and Forest put out where they do wedge cuts, but then they duct tape it, and it just seems kind of weird to me. And I figured the more logs I've done over the past year or so now, 8-9 months, whatever it has been, the more excuse me, the more efficient methods I'm using. Scare him. the more efficient methods I'm finding for inoculating the logs. It is so fast. You can inoculate logs so fast with the X cut. And it's not even an X cut now. I just do a slice cut. It's a double slice. So it's not an X. Someone actually looked at me and was like, why are you making the X cut? And I was like, because the double, and I'll get into it when I make the video, but I'm thinking about doing a lot more of that kaboom. I think that there's a big place for that. Plus, if I want to sell a lot more spawn, it's easier to sell spawn when people know how to use the spawn, right? And I think log cultivation, for many people, like if you live on the desert, log cultivation is just not going to be that great. But so many people have land or garden space, or live like was it Seth calls North America like the Saudi Arabia of wood, because there's so much wood here, and I guess because we've also taken care of it, but there's so much wood and materials and sawdust to work with. So, and plus forest, it's another thing, right? Like I like blocks, I like the grow rooms, but working, like smelling the sawdust, especially with the electric chainsaw. The electric chainsaw is so much more pleasant, and it works just as well. In fact, it works to me better than any of the gas chainsaws I've ever used. And I can charge it on the solar, so there's that too. But it's just it's so much more pleasant than working with sawdust blocks. So, and you can still do it in the grow room. I've got logs that'll fit on the shelves in the grow room, and a log will flush more times than a block. So you only do the work once and you get multiple harvests out of it, and it lasts longer. And wood produces a ton of weight in mushrooms. So it's just a little less predictable. So it's really great for things like turkey tail and reishi and things like that. So, and I mean, oysters and stuff will grow just fine. I saw a video somewhere of an Oregon mushroom farmer using logs for 10 plus years. That comment? It kind of depends. I'm sorry. I see that you said hi, Samantha, too. I'll tell her when she gets back, but they gone. For 10 plus years, I mean, people who get good at log fruiting tend to stay in it. And there are a lot of use cases for where I think log fruiting makes a lot of commercial sense. Again, if you're looking at it from a first principles perspective, you need to make money to pay bills, right? So there are ways like wealth engines that you can build, like what we did before, where we did the blocks into the grow room. And we still do plenty of blocks. Don't get me wrong. I'm not stopping blocks. But there are ways to use logs that make a lot of commercial sense. I'm actually surprised. Most of it's labor-intensive stuff. Well, to me, like the logs are so much less labor now, actually. Once you have a pallet jack or a forklift, it's even easier to bring that stuff around. But now they've got these I saw one of these like motorized carts that they're pushing on like YouTube commercials or whatever. I want one of these things where you stand up and you drive it around, and it's just got a big cart in front of you, like a big wagon. I could totally drive that all the way around the op and just beep beep to the grow room, back out to the log pile. That'd make such a cool YouTube channel too. But yeah, people that get into it and have, like, if he's been doing it 10 plus years, they're probably not going to stop doing it. There are mushroom farms in Japan that have been growing on logs for 2,000 years, I think was the oldest one I'd heard of. And what's cool is the X cut and the wedge cut, I found out because I was using an AI to translate Japanese manuscripts on log growing. That's how I found out about the X cut and the wedge cut. Even though there is English material out there, it's very little, very few, and very far between. The AI's ability to translate, it can read Japanese as easy as it can read English. I can't. And it can read every language, basically. So it's kind of cool to be able to use it as a translation software, basically. Oh, good. I'm glad they like the King Blues. That's easily what I've heard across the board. King Blue seems to be a chef's favorite. And we call that one of their mortgage lifters, right? It's so productive and so reliable that it'll lift your mortgage right off your shoulders. it says there's a lot of literature on plants, polyploidy, and making hybrids. I pumped a bunch of stuff through Notebook LM yesterday. Going to try using. Uh, we always have to use words. Colchicine, colchicine, fluco, fluco. Man, you're going to be laughing at this, Ed. You always laugh at my pronunciations. Orzolan to make polyploids. Aren't potatoes, irises are sometimes polyploids? Potatoes are polyploids. Isn't that one of the things that they talk about is that Mendelian genetics? Mendel chose the sweet pea and was lucky that he chose a haploid species because the next species he chose was a polyploid species and it confounded him on the Mendelian genetics. He was freaking out because it wasn't doing what he, kind of thing. There is no simple, cheap / effective way to confirm hybrids with DNA. It could be done with PCR RFLP techniques, but it would require a lot of things most people are not willing, capable of doing. That, has been my understanding of it as well. E.g., depositing confirmed strains and their cross, allowing other free access to them, and agreeing on naming conventions and provenance. That is just the beginning of the problems with confirming. Also, so this is an interesting example that you bring up, Ed, because I hope you're still on here, but if you're not, for everyone else, the New Zealand, I think it was, Tom Brain was telling us about this, of oak and spore, that Pleurotus austriatus is actually allowed to be grown in New Zealand. So they try importing strains in. The thing is that it has to be DNA tested against the example strain of Pleurotus austriatus that New Zealand has, and nothing matches. And then I think that recently, I think I could be wrong about this. I think that they figured out that Pleurotus austriatus that they had as the exemplar of Pleurotus austriatus was not actually austriatus, or maybe they're testing at the wrong segment. But yeah, so there you go. It can be, even on that level. So. Also, like he brings up the naming conventions and provenance and stuff, that you're going to have people arguing about that forever. That's going to be a political thing. You're trying to get herding cats kind of situation. STR, ISS, R, S&Ps, etc. could also be used, but the same predictable problems I just listed and more. Would love to stick around, but teaching calls. I got to drive to work. Womp womp. Womp womp. Your Rifle Creek oysters and your Nana and Gramps. What about them? Did you? Oh, we grabbed your Rifle Creek and your Nana and Gramps oysters. Thank you, brother. Absolutely. I like the Nana and Gramps. It's got a really close place in my heart. That Rifle Creek is just these beautiful brown, perfect little mushrooms. I love that Rifle Creek. And it's not my Rifle Creek, just so you know. That came from Legacy Mushrooms, who I think is no longer around. I don't know. I tried contacting him a bunch before I started selling it. And when I noticed that they didn't seem to be around, I couldn't find Rifle Creek oyster anywhere else. That's a wild bioprospected strain. I put that on the market to get it out there to preserve it. Because the best way to preserve a strain is to get people growing it. Get it in other libraries. So that is the story of that. That is Legacy Mushrooms legacy, I guess. I hope so. East Asians and Native Americans have basically cultivated foods that feed the world. Oh, yeah. Yeah, man. If you look at like the Chinampas in Mexico, was it the Aztecs, I guess? Because, yeah, that would have been Aztecs because it's Mexico City. I use a modified Chinampas technique. That's what I call it down here. I create a false or a artificial, I guess Terra Preta is artificial. I create a knockoff of Terra Preta using mushroom, spent substrate, charcoal that I make here on site, and vermicomposting, composting techniques, etc. I combine it all. And then I put it in basically food grade buckets, and then I put those in trays of water. And so I have this like Chinampa system where I'm growing aquatic plants in the trays of water, And then I have two like 5-gallon buckets with pepper plants in them, where their roots are reaching down to the water, and they're able to drink from that water whenever they want. And it made an incredibly productive. That was last year was my first year doing that. I'm going whole hog this time. We're actually trying felt bags this time to see if the felt bags work well as well. Because I don't like the buckets as much. They start to get brittle out in the sun, that kind of thing. Don't forget to hit that like button and show some love. Thank you, Guru. Thank you for the reminder. I reached the end of the chat. Oh my goodness. What do I do? I don't know what to do with my hands. Oh, Ricky Bobby. He wants to go fast. That's all he wants. So, for you, going back to the sci-fi stuff real quick while other questions come up. Roll it. No, I have already rolled a bunch, man. Oh, did you with my hands? I got too many already. If I roll too many, if I roll more than like 2 or 3 days worth, they go stale. So, you know, I don't want to roll too many. But, and that's pipe tobacco. The before I get accused on stream again. But they I like Captain Black. And you don't have to breathe it in or anything, which I have to be careful about breathing stuff in nowadays, you know, with my lungs. So I had to switch to cigars and such, which is actually so much tastier anyways. But point being, that's my vice. And I only allow myself to do it during certain times, and stream is one of the times I've allowed myself the treat. But the sci-fi stuff, anyone who's not read Werner Vinge should. There's a really interesting, I think, Reason TV, which I think is a conservative thing, or like a I think it's libertarian political view, but yeah, that doesn't matter for this. Just Werner Vinge had an they posted like segments from an interview that he did, and it's very interesting because he's dead now. But stuff that he was writing back in like the 90s. I think he's the one that back in like 1996 or something like that said that in the next 30 years we'll have general intelligence. And it's like, whoa, that was an accurate prediction. But he writes a lot about artificial intelligence and zones of thought through the universe, space travel, free market economics. There's a great book. My favorites are like A Fire Upon the Deep and A Deepness in the Sky. But there's also The Peace War, which is an interesting one. And my mind's going blank. But A Deepness in the Sky is super cool if you want to, if you like space traders and biology and that kind of thing. If you've got, if you're interested in the AI and how like space internet would work kind of thing. It is interesting how he breaks it down like, okay, across space and the vast distances, you're going to use more like forums than, you know, live streams and instant connection. But it's also about AI. And like there's in the beginning of the book, like the first couple of pages, it introduces you to these AI instances of these two humans. And they're basically like the personalities that are uploaded of these two. And like, they set things in motion. It's super cool. Like there's some really good sci-fi books. So you should definitely check that out. I had a fancy roller for a while. It would roll them for me. It was way too easy. No, that's bad. No, I'm just kidding. No, that's probably easy enough. Easy bake barrel. Make one if you want to make a lot of substrate. Those are super good. Easy bakes are simple and they're good. And they're like one of those like sweet spots between like 3 or 4, you know, like bubbles in a Venn diagram of good enough technology all coming together to create like something that is so good and so easy to plug into a system. And many of them can be run on like 15 amp circuits and stuff. So I am just restarting my mushroom farm after I moved, and I'm thinking about approaching grocery stores. Do you do any grocery store sales, and how do you approach it? So real quick, just because some of you guys don't watch every stream or anything like that, I don't do commercial mushroom growing anymore. So I grow for my market, like a CSA and market garden kind of stuff. And we have like local pickups and some regulars that do that. But we do not do a lot of commercial, like business to business farming anymore. I handed most of my restaurants off to ET Fungi up in Oak Ridge or Powell or whatever. And I think Misty Mountain Mushrooms in Maryville has grown to service some of those restaurants as well, like Amici and whatnot. And then I've gone back entirely to a teaching and supply side of things. So I get paid a lot more now to do a lot more of the science side of things than I used to, which I like and love. So that's where I wanted to be, and that's kind of where I've moved myself to. Now, that said, when I was doing it, do I do any grocery store sales? No. I know Josiah does some. I always stayed away from grocery stores. Some of them are a little bit easier to get into, but the problem I have is that they usually want to put you in like a bin, and people are coming through and they're bagging their own mushrooms, and the mushrooms break apart. They're not really well kept. There's a lot of waste. The restaurant doesn't want to pay you for the waste. I mean, not restaurant, grocery store. So, but there are people there. I think Josiah doesn't like clamshells. I think they have, I don't really know how it all works exactly. Some grocery stores will work with you. Some don't want to work with you unless you have a certain amount of insurance, which you should have liability insurance. If you're running a mushroom farm, you should have liability insurance. I think mine's $400 a year for $500,000 in liability or something like that. So it can be very cheap. Used to be a lot harder to get insurance for a small mushroom farm than it is today. But that said, there was just a lot more, and I was just like, I preferred the restaurant relationship. That said, I do know people that sell to grocery stores, and they really enjoy it, but I've not really dug deep into how they do that, how they approach that. But what I would do, I did work at a grocery store, and I did work in the produce section. I think somebody's here. But anyways, I did work in the produce section, and I worked in the meat department and stuff. And I will say the easiest thing to do is call the grocery store or arrive at the grocery store and ask to speak to the produce manager. And after you talk to the produce manager, then you can find out what level of certifications, insurances, liabilities, things like that they are going to want you to have. So that's the biggest thing there. Do what? Oh. So that's the biggest thing you'd want to do. But the produce manager is who you want to speak to. And a lot of times that's the biggest hurdle, is just trying to figure out who you're supposed to ask for. So I would ask to speak to the produce manager, probably calling first, asking them when is a good time to stop by and show them your product. And then you can bring a sample product to show them. So what are some good sci-fi movies? I'm looking for new ones to watch. Okay, so I just watched one. It's on Prime, Amazon, or no, it's not on Amazon Prime. I don't remember where I watched it now, but it's called Long Distance. I just watched that a couple nights ago. Thank Me Later. That is a fantastic sci-fi movie. One of the best ones I've watched in a long time. No, I thought it was on Amazon, but it was. I can't remember where I watched it now. I'd have to go look at it now. I had to find like a weird site to watch it on because it was not on Amazon. Right. Then, if you haven't seen the movie Prospect, okay. Hold on 1 second. Do what? I hope not. Okay. Like as you leave? Okay. Okay. If I need it, I will borrow one from Ben. Okay. No, you're fine. If you haven't seen the movie Prospect, that is a fantastic movie. Yeah, it's the Mandalorian actor. Yeah, that's a good one. It's actually kind of a short one. It's got whatever his name is that plays the Mandalorian. That's let's see. So there's Prospect, there's Long Distance, there's The Expanse. Yeah, it's the prospect is not an action. It's more of a like I don't know, kind of a slow plotting kind of sci-fi, but it's really good.
It's like an indie.
Yeah, it's an indie film, I think.
It's good as long as you don't expect it to be fucking the Avengers.
Indie and it's good. Indie, but it's good as long as you expect it to not be the Avengers. Gotcha. I only repeated you because I didn't see like when you talked, it didn't pop up the sound. But yeah, so those are two really good ones. There is there's another one that Korean films right now. I don't know what's going on in Korean television and films, but they're going through like a golden age. So if you like sci-fi, like zombies, if you count zombies as sci-fi, do what? Because Disney hasn't gotten there yet. There is Kingdom. It is about medieval Korea going through whatever their like warring kingdoms period or whatever it's called, but zombies kind of just arrive. That's right. There is the Silent Sea or Silent Sea, which is about a mission to the moon. Yeah, that one's good. I've still got one more episode of that one before I'm done. There's Train to Busan. That's a zombie flick. That's one of the best zombie flicks I've ever seen. Yeah, so that's good. That's some good sci-fi for you. Most grocers expect a certain volume, and if you can't meet one week, they'll drop you like a bad habit. That is true. That is very true. Does Werner have a series, or are they more standalone stories? He's got series. So there's the Peace War. That is a series. The Fire Upon the Deep has books after it. I've never read them. Charles, I think, has read a couple of them. But they only take place on like a single planet that's on in a Fire Upon the Deep. And then he's the Peace War is a series it's pretty good from what I've read. And then I don't know if Vinji's got any other series, but and again, I've not read the ones after Fire Upon the Deep. I told you he read them. You read. Yep.
I read Children of the Sky, which was like the sequel to Fire Upon the Deep, because Deepness in the Sky was the prequel, but it was totally different characters with like some overlap. And then at the end of Deepness, they destroy. Well, I don't want to spoil anything. So at the end of A Fire Upon the Deep, there's another book called Children of the Sky that was maybe 15 years later. And I'll be frank, it wasn't as good. It was less sci-fi, more fantasy. It was a bunch of like interpersonal stuff. It kind of felt like a young adult novel instead of the other stuff was kind of like higher sci-fi. So it wasn't bad. It just wasn't as good as the other ones. Yeah. Okay. So that's what I'm saying. Like he wrote, this was like because he's still alive as far as I know.
I thought he was dead.
I don't know. I don't keep track of shit. Here, you can have it back. That's all I'm saying.
All right.
For you. This is bad.
You just lay it right there then. And I'll just give it back to him, right? Okay. I'll give it back to him. All right. You guys heading out?
Yes.
No, you're fine. Yeah. No. You were absolutely right. A Peace War. That's yeah. So the Peace War and the Maroon and Time are the same, are two books in the same series, right? Okay.
But that was the one where you had the bubbles.
Yeah.
They're like stasis bubbles.
Yep.
And when they pop, and then the size of the bubble
depends on how long.
It lasts.
Yeah.
And it takes more energy to make a bigger bubble. So they were like, it was like an arms race thing.
Yeah, Peace War was good. Yeah.
It's been a long time since I read that.
I remember really enjoying it, but it has been since high school since I've read it.
He wrote, no, that might have been also Scott Card. Now I'm starting to.
That was Card.
Now I'm starting to blend some together.
Card was had another similar series.
Well, he had multiple
Peace War are in real time. All right, sorry, I muted myself. Say goodbye real quick. But yeah, those are some really good books. Look for locavore type stores. We've had great success with art. Oh, good. Okay, so there you go. There's actually someone that's got some experience with it. What's up, Mr. Greenfingers? One love. Show me some love and hit that like button. Mushroom question: do you think for a hobby scale it'd be easier to use jars or the small unicorn bags for spawn stuff? I enjoyed jars, but if you use jars, don't use the micropose filters for jars. Use the synthetic filter discs. They make them for wide mouth or regular mouth. Use wide mouth. Wide mouth is so much easier to clean. But you cannot let them grow in. If you let them grow in, you will never get it out. The good news with bags is that if they grow in a little bit too far and they get all hard, you can just, really still give them a good whacking and they'll bust up. So the jars, I always enjoyed those small scale. Plus they're reusable. The synthetic filter discs, I reuse those 3 or 4 times. So that's a good way to go. PB2959 says, this is your first live I joined. Well, welcome. Glad to have you. 30 minutes ago, I joined and randomly back up 45 minutes just in time to hear you discussing the new strain. Looked up on your site. They look incredible. You're probably talking about the moon pearls. Yeah, that's hands down my favorite. The white gold enoki, pretty close. I love that white gold enoki, but it's still very traditional enoki. Not sci-fi, but great watch. Monster, the Ed Gein story, is great if you're into documentish style horror gore. I am sometimes. I don't know, man. I have to be careful with horror stuff. Like I remember watching Dexter. I started watching Dexter, and then I started dreaming about serial killer stuff, and I was like, I'm done with this. I can't do anymore. So I never actually finished Dexter. It messed with my dreams. So sometimes I can watch that stuff, like Mindhunter. I liked Mindhunter. True Detective was good the first season. I didn't watch anything beyond that. So I don't know about second or third or whatever many there are. But Mindhunter was a really good one. What's up, Greg? Cheers. Thank you very much. I will try. Long Distance, Prospect, Kingdom, The Silent Sea, Children of the Sky. I haven't read Children of the Sky. I read The Peace War, and I read Children of the Sky is not a show. That's a book. The Long Distance, Prospect, Kingdom, and The Silent Sea are all great movies. Prospect, Kingdom, Silent Sea. Kingdom, Silent Sea, and Train to Busan were all of the Korean flicks. So you will have to turn on subtitles. I don't think there's a dub. Seth. So funny enough, Seth Fisher, the owner of Mushroom Media Online, I think his major in college was film. He's the one that told me that Korea was going through like this renaissance, and he was right. I've been hooked on so many of the Korean films. The only thing is that I can't watch them too late, or I start not wanting to read the subtitles. Teddy, it's enough. Okay, cool. Audible has those 3 on their audio is the only way I can get through. Which can't sit still long enough. I hear you there. I listen to a lot of that. Dune is also good if you are into that kind of thing. And if you haven't done classics, like the sci-fi classics, Starship Troopers, iRobot, the Robot series. The Robot series is different than iRobot. iRobot's a collection of short stories. The Robot series is about a couple of different characters, but it's in series. Foundation series is a great one. Oh my gosh, I can't remember his name all of a sudden. Guy wrote like Ring World and things like that. But those are some really good ones if you like the classic sci-fi. It's a little drier writing style. I actually appreciate it, but sometimes you have to gear up for it. Good stuff for in the lab, though. I bought the plastic fruiting jars directly from a manufacturer in China before they were available for sale in the States. I've never used the plastic ones. They're about the same size as the the little skinny tall unicorn bags. I can't remember the number on those now. I don't think they're four. They may be 4T. But they're about the size of a 32 ounce 32 ounce soup cup, whatever they call those, deli container. So the deli containers are way cheaper. You can go to Uline and buy a box of like 250 for super cheap. But yeah, that's those work really, really well if you want a cheaper way of doing the plastic fruiting jars. They're shaped like this, so there's more surface area to fruit on. You might want to restrict that actually. Or sometimes I've seen people just punch a hole right through the plastic to get it to fruit, but then you can't reuse it as easily. There's a slight Mindhunter crossover on Monster. Okay, I'll have to check that out then. I'll definitely check that out. Larry Niven is a weird dude. I don't know anything about him personally, but that's who I was trying to think of. Anderson Paul Anderson, something like that was another good one. Ben Bova, if you like pulp sci-fi, Ben Bova's got a really good one. Some really good stuff. He's also got some really weird stuff. One where they there's one where they genetically engineer a gorilla to be human level intelligent. That's an interesting book. I can't remember. They had him on a space station or something. It's been a long time since I've read that. But there's Ben Bova. There's one that he wrote it's about Jupiter and stuff. That one I really enjoyed. I don't want to describe it too much because I'll give too much away. But that one was a really cool one. But yeah, I don't know anything about any of that. I know Robert A. Heinlein wrote some amazing stuff. I love a lot of Robert A. Heinlein stuff, but he's weird. He's got some weird stuff for sure. Let's see. I mean, and of course, I'm a huge Dune nerd. I read the entire Dune series. I've read the first Dune book 20 times. But I will say, if you just read the first book and then you stop and you don't read the rest, you're missing so much of the point. It's not just a book about a warning against following charismatic leaders. That's such a small part of it, and it's actually such a long view vision of different paths humanity can take, and an exploration of what it means to be human in a sci-fi cosmic horror kind of context. This kind of emptiness, of the only alien really out there that in the Dune universe is the AI that we created that enslaved us, that we defeated right before, or not right before, but before Dune starts. That's and then now so humanity's facing this world alone, or this universe alone kind of thing. And what do we fragment into and become, twist ourselves into, or what does it even look like to be human? It's such a great book, but it's full of religious mythos and philosophy and that kind of stuff. So Eric Myers was selling used plastic jars for a while. Not sure if he's still doing it. I don't know. I've not seen that. I did buy his bag milker. That sounds terrible now that I say that. Samantha's over there turning red and giggling like crazy. Yeah, she said, "Shut up." But he's got this bag contraption. It's just a vacuum, suction cups and stuff, but it sucks the air out of bags. I bought that, and I really like it. It makes no more cutting bags open, that kind of thing. So that's a really good piece of tech. I like that that he did. Yeah, Dune was going to be my next listen. Dude, okay, right there. Yeah, I'm glad I talked up Dune then. That would be super cool. My go-to big nerd series is Lord of the Rings. That's a good one right there. The basically the grandfather of fantasy. Lord of the Rings is great. I will say Dune and Lord of the Rings are very. Dune is for people who see the world in shades of gray, where Lord of the Rings is the one where people see good and evil, right? And I like them both. I love them both, and I appreciate them both, and I've read both of them multiple times. But not everybody who likes one likes the other. Grow Kent says, any chance you could talk about business licensing to run your grow after Sci-Fi Book Talk? Sure, absolutely. I can tell you that I have a business license from my state and my nation, and that's basically it. That's all I needed. Tennessee The federal government treats mushrooms as produce, so you just have to follow produce laws, and that's basically left up to the states. And Tennessee is an pro-agricultural state. They treat mushrooms as produce. I can sell mushrooms from the back of a truck on the side of the road here. I could sell them like tomatoes or cucumbers or anything else. So it's going to depend very highly on where you live. That's the kind of business licensing you're going to need. Now, to rent any sort of commercial space, you're going to have liability insurance. To sell to most grocery stores, you're going to have liability insurance. And if you're going to sell mushrooms at all, you should have liability insurance. So the good news is that the kinds of things they require so far for me to grow and stuff here are the kinds of things you should have. So, Zero says hi, Samantha. 0 bytes. So that's basically it. There's not really a lot of licensing. Now, if you're going to run a laboratory, there are classifications to laboratory. And us being an ag lab, we're actually an unclassified laboratory. We don't have to have a classification. We're actually considering going up for our classification. Would there be class 4? Class 4 lab, I think. But so we provide like phytosanitary declarations, which is a little bit different than a phytosanitary certificate. A phytosanitary certificate is an inspected facility. Like, we're not an inspected facility. We're an agricultural lab, so we don't have to worry about the licensing and stuff like that. But that has nothing to do with growing mushrooms. You don't really have to have a lab unless lab classification. Now, if to do certain things, you would, but to run a farm, all the laboratory work you would need to do to run a farm, to do bioprospecting, to do strain banking, to sell strains, that kind of stuff, you don't have to have. Now, if you're going to sell international, some countries require phytosanitary certificates. Some allow phytosanitary declarations. Some require no declarations or certificates at all for certain species. It is entirely dependent on the agricultural laws of that nation. So that's really basically all the licensing and everything there that I know of. I don't have to do much. I've not had to worry about it. Illinois, I know, is actually a little bit more complicated than Tennessee. Not a ton. I know that it's still easy to get into markets, but they're going to have different laws. So you're going to want to look up your state's laws if you live in the States. If you live in a different country, I've got no idea unless I'm doing a consultation for you and I'm specifically looking into that for you, which I haven't done for every nation. So the UK is pretty easy. I do know that. England, Scotland, Ireland all seem fairly easy. They all seem to be fairly supportive of agriculture ish. So Myers is a fart smeller. Smart feller. Plum. Very good. I actually only read that out. I saw that, but I read that out loud specifically so Samantha can make a face. Good to know. Yeah, very welcome, Grow. Absolutely. I'm sorry that it couldn't be more information. I hope it was as simple as you wanted it to be. Here in North Carolina, they are more worried about selling wild mushrooms than cultivating. Same thing. And so Tennessee almost joined the Virginia, Georgia, North Carolina certifying mushroom hunters kind of food law thing that they did. And thankfully, some people I know went before the Tennessee State Congress and was like, why are you doing this? This is stupid. All you're going to do is limit, a lot of this stuff. So thankfully they did that in Tennessee, kind of cut ourselves out of that. So you can still sell wild mushrooms here with the same produce, etc. The good news is people are and should be afraid to sell wild mushrooms that they don't really fully understand. And most of the people that sell it are not interested in poisoning people. They're interested in making money. And it's hard to make money when you poison people, right? So the good news is that law doesn't really necessarily need to be, because it's kind of a self-reinforcing principle right there. I know of a couple of people who actually helped enact and draft the first law in North Carolina. And I will tell you that I was not pleased with they did it, and they kind of wrote it into the point where they were for a while the only ones capable of certifying people. So it seemed more to me like a money grab. But yeah, thank you for sharing your knowledge. You're very welcome. Very welcome, Zero. Thank you guys for creating content for me by asking questions. Is the gourmet community as cutthroat as the actives? No, it is not. but it is like I said before, like I used to work in aquaculture. Aquaculture. Now, granted, I worked in aquaculture 15 years ago, 17 years ago, 15 years ago. It was very, very, very young. It was right when my first son was born, basically, and he's 19. So, the first couple of years of his life. So, yeah, about 17 years ago. And aquaculture back then was not nearly as cutthroat as mushrooms in general. Mushrooms are very cutthroat. Strain sellers in the gourmet community, there are a lot of culture vultures, I would call them. Strain pirates, genetic pirates. There are a lot of people who do that, but from what I've seen, I'm not very active in the actives community. Haha, joke. But I'm not very active in the actives community. But from what I've seen, and from I've got friends who are in that, and it seems to be way more cutthroat than the gourmet side is. So, gourmet, thankfully, you have what I would call a lot of canna bros, right? Came from the cannabis industry into the actives industry, and they seem to have brought a money hungriness, I guess, and a credit hungriness. That's the biggest thing I see in the gourmet side. Is there's a lot of people who are just so credit hungry that they'll learn a bunch of stuff, whether it's from me or whoever, and they'll just cut credit out completely. Hey, check this out, and then they get all the credit for that from their audience, without giving credit to where it's due to the giants whose shoulders they stand on. I call myself a giant. I stand on giant shoulders, and I try to give credit where credit is due. Now, there's another interesting complication here where you have what I call it's not what I call convergent evolution, but in evolutionary biology they call it convergent evolution. Back in the day, there were dolphin-like creatures that were lizards. There have been crabs that look like, or non-crab species that look just like crabs over and over again throughout the fossil record. They just discovered a new fossil that's like a crocodile.
Crocodile with extra extended legs.
With extra extended legs. Was that actually a crocodilian though? Or okay. But the idea is that like convergent evolution happens when a species hits a set of circumstances. Like flight. Flight has evolved like 5 times. So you have mammals, insects, avian dinosaurs, pterodactyls, which, so whatever those were, right? Those aren't avians. And then am I missing something? I feel like I'm missing something, but I can't. I'm having a hard time thinking. The whole point is you have convergent evolution, right? So you have like what I come up with as what I think is a great idea, and I've totally come up with it on my own. I really have. But what you see is that 5 other people have come up with that same idea because they've hit similar circumstances, and it's the form that follows that function, right? That's another evolutionary term. Form follows function. You can tell about the function of a limb or an organism, a part of an organism, by its form. Its form is designed to follow to function a certain way, right? And so you do get people who are credit hungry, and then you get people who truly did come up with it on their own and don't realize that somebody else came up with it to give credit to, and it's just a mess, right? But that is a thing. But no, I don't think it's to just answer your question. I don't think gourmet is as cutthroat as actives, but it is way more cutthroat than farming mushrooms or the supply side's cutthroat. I'll put it that way. Farms have been a far less cutthroat. Suppliers have been way more cutthroat. And I don't think I've met a supplier that's not been a little cutthroaty. Or if they did start off that way, they probably became a little cutthroaty. So, cutty throat. No license here. We are still small and have only run into a few places that ask for license and bonding. Okay. Yep. And it's gonna depend. Like rural communities are probably gonna be a lot looser than urban communities. Urban communities are going to tend to be a lot tighter, and with good reason. I mean, when you get people stacked on top of each other, people have got to make good decisions. Plunder log. That is an interesting looking plate. The growth on that is All kinds of crazy. It's all floofy. What is your go-to for long-term storage? Slants, distilled water, slants. I do some distilled water, but I do not do distilled water by itself ever. Slants are the long-term proven technique, and the he keeps using his claws. Teddy, are you getting jealous? But slants are the long-term storage proven technique. Distilled water has been proven for many things, but I haven't seen like it hold. I've not seen anyone open up a distilled water, tube of white rot fungi mycelium and open it up and see. But I have seen people open up some really old slants, and then still be able to pull viable tissue. So, hello, Sam, says Tennessee Stargazer. By the way, I changed the account name. I'm the guy that keeps asking about LM almost every stream. Lions Man every stream? As in the... not that I know of. I know morels are huge in Iowa. Many people rely on morels for extra income. I've never seen a morel where I live in North Carolina. I'm lucky to find 5 or 6 around here anymore. We used to find 20, 30, 40. Okay, come here. If you're going to come up, if you're going to nose me, you got to be part of the content. There you go. Look over here. Look over here. See that? You're just going to look at me. You're all eyes for me and nothing for the camera. See right here? Look at that. You see that? But yeah, morels are not, like, people eat them around here. Snaggletooth. But they're not as common as they are, like, out west, Indiana, Iowa, the Midwest. Did your boy come in here? Oh yeah. So that's a true crocodile. Yeah. Ow. Oh, sorry, buddy. Okay, cool. So this is kind of the crocodile. You can see it's got like long legs. That's what Samantha was bringing up during the convergent evolution stuff. But that right there would be form follows function. We know that animal is going to walk a lot more than a traditional crocodile. What we think of as a traditional crocodile, that would have walked more, right? Used those long legs, probably lived in a slightly different environment than the crocodiles we're used to. I know there was a crocodile that had hooves and apparently galloped. So Pedro Pascal, that's who was in Prospect. Yep. One of my favorite books of all time is by Jack London called Before Adam. I've read some Jack London stuff, and I like him from what I've read, but I don't know Before Adam. The Bone Temple was a really good movie. Okay. I've heard that. I have not checked it out yet. I do like, that's the one that's based on 27 Days Later. 27 Days Later, 27 Weeks Later, right? 27 years later, maybe. But the Bone Temple, I have heard that's really good. I've heard it from multiple sources. I really want to watch it, but I'm thinking about going back and watching. Cillian Murphy, is that who was in the first 28 Days Later? Back when he was really young, before he did like Peaky Blinders and stuff. Is Teddy over his constant scratch? He is. I'm glad you asked. I guess I should have showed, but his backside is completely healed up. His itchiness is all gone, and he's doing much, much better. So, Plum said, "What's up, big dog?" I love my cats. Miss my little dog. Yeah, Teddy's he's a screamer. He's a talker and a screamer and a howler. And I can get him. I'll sing songs and I'll get him to sing with me. The problem is I cannot whistle or sing around him without him howling, So I used to just whistle while I worked, but now it's a little difficult unless I want him howling in my ear. Oh, the main celebrity makes his first appearance. Yeah. Yeah, Ted and Squanch, man, they pretty much rule this place. Anyone who's ever been here for a mentorship has gotten very acquainted with Teddy. Squanch is fairly new. A lot of people probably didn't know him, which we're not doing mentorships right now. So we're doing the online classes, but I have people, if people are interested in mentorships, I do have 2 students who are willing to do mentorships. One on the West Coast and one on the East Coast. And I've kind of partnered with them to do that stuff now. 2 previous mentees. They're now running commercial farms. And that's mainly because I'm running a supply side of things. So I can teach a lot of things, but I can no longer show the large commercial scale stuff. So, but it also makes it a lot easier for me to get more lab work done nowadays. Crocodiles are fast enough. I'd hate to have to run from that thing. No kidding. Yeah, I'd be terrified. Dinosaurs were terribly, terribly terrifying. Teddy barks at you like he wants you out. Then he sits on your lap like he loves you. Yep, that's exactly what happens. Like he wants you out. He wants you. It's like intruder, intruder, intruder. Oh my gosh, everything's dying. Who are you? He'll do that with Collier. Collier moved out, so Teddy, even at anywhere we go, if Collier walks in the room, Collier is now treated as a stranger for a split second. So that's just the way it goes. All right, guys, we have hit the 3-hour mark. So I am going to go drink some water and then probably pee. And then I am going to go eat some what looks like delicious supper coming up. Are you making cheesy potatoes? Heck yeah, she's making cheesy potatoes. Yeah, thank you, baby. Well, guys, I'm going to go get ready for some cheesy potatoes. And I really appreciate you guys joining me. Thank you so much for making this a great stream. I really enjoyed myself tonight, and that's all because of you. It's your fault I enjoyed myself. I blame you. Thank you guys very much. Cheesy potatoes. Plum's making faces. He wants cheesy potatoes. It's a little cheesy potatoes with some mushroom powder on it. Some good stuff. So thank you all again. Like I said, make sure you use code Mossy at Rhizofunga and with House of Hydro, Shroom Supply. I don't get a kickback from Shroom Supply, but they've always really taken care of my customers, especially if you want the red injection ports, the heavy-duty ones. That's the place to get them. And hit that like button, subscribe. Anything else? Oh, next day or so, we'll have Black Pearl spawn on the website, so look out for that. And we've got a lot more stuff coming up. We also have the Cordyceps class, it's the Liquid Culture Deep Dive class coming up next month, which is our precursor to the Cordyceps class we have the month after that. So I planted a bunch of Cordyceps yesterday, hoping to have a lot of good examples for you guys. The extraction class we did last month was kind of small, but really fun. And of course, we got the class pass, so you can actually go and watch the previous classes and then every other class afterwards if you do the class pass. And that'll cover every class for the entire year. You'll get all the backlinks and all the links coming forward. And yeah, thank you all again for supporting us. Keep spawning culture, y'all.
Step into the lab, lights hum like a starship dock. Pine logs stacked like data banks in a cube block. I calibrate climates while the timeline bends. Writing fungal code loops only Mycelium sends. I navigate ecosystems with instinctive precision. Every egg a plate a portal to a parallel vision. Mentorships spin up like reactors at dawn. You want a culture revolution, then you better respond. We fracture the boundaries of the natural order. Make Reishi bloom sideways like a space-time border. I'm an Appalachian alchemist, wild ridge born, with a druid's intuition and a mind full of spores.
Keep spawning culture.
We're the network underfoot, the unseen sculpture.